This guy was nothing but a failure, but everything changed. Suddenly, a wave of monsters invaded the world. Dragons, wyverns, creatures capable of destroying entire cities. While everyone else fell into despair, he realized something unbelievable. He was the only one who knew the strategies of that game. Now, using goblins, traps, and impossible tactics, this boy must survive the monster waves before the entire world is destroyed. It all begins at the Hunter Association Stadium on a sunny day. Being called to the stage, graduate Kim Han-ul draws all the camera flashes. Walking with firm steps, he goes up to receive his license. In front of him, the official congratulates him for completing the course. He finally became a hunter, feeling like he put his soul into it. Remembering the past, he studied twice as hard to overcome his weaknesses. Thus, his knowledge about dungeons and monsters became unmatched. Feeling that all his hard work paid off, he celebrates the achievement. But the official interrupts him, saying he was mistaken. Then, the official tears up the paper, saying that E rank is just a name. He's shocked to hear that he can't operate as an official hunter. No matter how much he studies, his stats can't defeat a monster. 7 years ago, on that same day, he gave up on his dream. Back to the present, a message shows that the game he plays is shutting down. He freaks out, wondering how he's going to make a living now. The new career he found after giving up on being a hunter was precisely this game, called Monsters Block Monsters. Inside the game, there are countless monsters that the player needs to recruit. Seeming like a simple game, it actually has many variables to consider. Upgrading monsters is essential, but the success rate is terrible. If a well-leveled monster dies, it simply resets from 0. That's why he understands why people call it a trash game. Depending on the situation, a 3-star ogre dies to a 1-star goblin. Stretching, he says the game developer must be a sadist. Even with the insane difficulty, he makes a living streaming this game. Lying back, he laments not knowing what to do with his life now. At that moment, his stream chat starts sending him messages, so he greets everyone, beginning his final broadcast. Seeing the comments, he panics when they talk about being a hunter. He confirms he's a hunter, but people think it's just humility. Meanwhile, a viewer asks if he didn't earn enough as a hunter. Another user comments that they suspected it since he started playing trash games. Smiling awkwardly, he says he's considering going back but can't tell the truth. Clasping his hands together, he prepares to start the final challenge. Then he announces that since it's the last day, he'll show everything he's got. Asking the chat, he proposes going for the game's main challenge. In this mode, hordes of monsters come out of a gate to attack the castle. He warns that he's going to start wave 700 of the challenge right now. Saying this might be his last attempt, he reminds everyone of the money spent. He explains that no one has ever passed this stage, so it'll be a new record. Pressing the start button, he questions whether this really matters now. With his hand on the mouse, he takes a deep breath, feeling the nervousness increase. With a shout, he fills himself with energy and starts the challenge going all out. Wave number 700 finally begins, opening a portal on the map. From inside the portal, the first monsters begin to emerge on the battlefield. A gigantic horde of monsters advances with everything toward him. Seeing that the numbers are no joke, he decides to start with some strikes. His goblin archer then prepares, carefully aiming at the enemy. Firing a powerful shot, the arrow flies at high speed toward the target. It hits one of the monsters dead on, causing a huge impact. But suddenly, his archer is surprised by a strike coming from afar. Screaming in pain, the goblin realizes he was hit dead on. Right after, a notification warns that the archer has been eliminated. He laments, saying that was a very expensive unit to lose. With no time to think, more scorpion monsters advance in his direction. Realizing the danger of that swarm, he commands an area attack. The attack cuts through several enemies, clearing the path for a moment. Then he summons the succubus queen to clear the entrance first. The succubus appears on the battlefield, looking confused around her. Out of nowhere, a 3-headed dog appears roaring in front of her. She wonders how the Cerberus managed to get there so fast. Realizing the threat, she tries to retreat to reorganize and counterattack. But before she could escape, the 3-headed dog attacks her. Right after, the game announces that the succubus queen has been eliminated. Another of his monsters, the one-eyed shooter, is also defeated. He complains that even though it's wave 700, the enemies are way too strong. The defeat notification continues, with the Tailor Ogre being eliminated. Even the enemy Cerberus that caused the damage ends up being defeated. He can't believe that the units he created so carefully were beaten. Seeing the big explosion, he realizes this attempt is over. With no more units or buildings, he says now only the castle remains. In the game, the castle is the last line of defense against the monsters. The monsters advance and destroy the castle, while he wonders if this is the end. Invading the throne room, the monsters approach the final objective. Sitting on the throne, a mysterious figure awaits the enemy's arrival. Suddenly, a notification warns that he challenged Wave 700 for the first time. He's completely confused, not understanding what this message means. Right after, the game system shows the character on the throne. The mysterious figure sitting on the throne begins to move slowly. Opening her eyes, the game announces that the sovereign has finally awakened. A servant appears and hands over a sword, which she grips firmly. Rising from the throne, she prepares to face the horde of monsters. Wielding her sword, the sovereign faces the enemies head-on. Shocked, he says the sovereign wasn't supposed to be a character that moves. At the top of the stairway, she faces the monsters that invaded the castle. He says he's had hundreds of game overs, but nothing like this ever happened. Despite everything, the sovereign remains standing, intact against the monsters. Not understanding anything, he wonders what the hell is happening now. With a single movement, she prepares a strike with her sword. The sovereign advances, defeating all creatures that dare cross her path. Impressed, he says she's wiping them all out with a single strike. At that moment, he asks her to wait. Seeing a flash in the middle of the battle, warning that it's dangerous, he tells her not to jump into the middle of the horde. Ignoring the warning, she leaps and prepares a powerful strike in the air. Flying toward the enemies, she delivers a great spinning strike. Her attack hits dead on, causing massive damage to several monsters. Being caught by surprise, the enemies are thrown far by the strike. After landing, she prepares for the next attack with her sword. Maintaining her focused expression, she observes the next targets she'll attack. Then, she advances again, delivering another strike with her sharp sword. Eliminating several enemies, the system shows the orc warrior and lizardman defeated. Continuing her attack, more monsters are eliminated with her precise strikes. Running through the hall, she keeps advancing without any apparent difficulty. With a final strike, she clears the path with a quick movement. Finally, the game shows the list of all the monsters that were eliminated. He's in disbelief, wondering what he just witnessed. After everything, she finally takes a deep breath. Looking a bit tired. Taking a step forward, she continues moving through the destroyed hall. Then, she creates a large portal of light in front of her. Sheathing her sword, he observes in shock all those defeated monsters. The sovereign stands still, staring at the result of her own battle. Noticing the scene, he shouts that she defeated all the monsters alone. She then turns around, observing the hall completely devastated by the fight. With the monsters on the ground, a congratulations message appears on the screen. Shocked, he sees the notice that Wave 700 was completed. Excited, he asks the chat if they saw the sovereign in action. Seeing the frozen screens, he asks if the stream happened to crash. At that moment, a viewer thanks him, and he sees that the stream didn't freeze. He's surprised, saying that viewer never spoke in 5 years. The person then says that thanks to him, their lord finally awakened. Finding it all complete nonsense, he just agrees with the message. The viewer continues, saying they await his leadership in the future. Seeing that the viewer left, he wonders if nobody else saw it. Lamenting his luck, he prepares to end the final broadcast. But suddenly, he notices something strange and goes on alert. An energy portal comes out of the screen and heads toward him. The bluish energy begins to spin, getting more and more intense. Being hit head-on, he's startled by the mysterious power. Falling from his chair, he wonders what's happening to him. Looking at the monitor, his eye reflects the light shining intensely. In front of him, a system window appears, talking about a new skill. Then he realizes this might mean a new awakening for him. Remembering the past, he recalls the man who rejected him. A doctor also said that some hunters awaken new abilities later. In rare cases, their rank can increase in the so-called reawakening. Even without fully understanding, he smiles, seeing that a new opportunity appeared. Supporting his hands on the desk, he stands up, accepting this new chance. With a final gesture, he then turns off his microphone for good. Looking at the screen, he announces that he's going back to being a hunter. Starting a new day, the sun shines bright outside. Sighing, he seems to be thinking about everything that happened. Sitting on the bed, he says he managed to reawaken, but he seems kind of down. His status window shows that his attributes are still very low. He complains that even after reawakening, his stats haven't changed at all. Suddenly, his eyes widen at a new notification. Then, the system asks if he wants to check out the new ability. Looking at the screen, he questions the skill information. With a smile, he says, "Stats don't matter if the skill is good." Without thinking twice, he presses the accept button on the screen. In front of him, 2 abilities appear, one for pact and another for conversation. Pointing at the screen, he finds the new ability named Strange. He decides he'll find out what they do when he activates them. Right then, the system warns that it's activating the pact with the sovereign, but a notification appears saying he doesn't have enough gold. The ability can't be activated due to lack of gold, the message says. Completely confused, he's left without reaction facing that unexpected notification. Throwing himself on the bed, he complains that he can't use the new abilities. Right then, he realizes he can't ask anyone about this situation. But then, he has an idea and looks at his monitors. Thinking a bit, he says, maybe that person knows something. Remembering the message, he recalls viewer number 1 thanking him. Then, feeling that same strangeness, he goes back to his computer. Determined, he starts a new stream, hoping the person will show up. Almost instantly, viewer number 1 enters and says good morning. He greets the viewer, thinking he was waiting to enter. Quickly, he clicks the icon to lock the stream just for the two of them. Bringing his hands together, he says he needs to ask something very important. He remembers the abilities appeared right after talking to him. Then he understands that the message about leadership might have a meaning. Remembering the game, he realizes the person might be connected to his reawakening. Saying it might seem strange, he tells about having a sudden reawakening yesterday. Staring intently, he asks if the viewer knows anything about it. Confirming the suspicions, the viewer says yes, he knows everything. He's shocked because now he's certain the viewer knows something. Right then, he remembers that awakening is something beyond human control. Then he wonders if the person has something to do with the thrones in the game. Resting his head on his hand, he says he's relieved, but very confused. He gestures, saying he can't find a reason to receive this favor. When the viewer responds, his eyes reflect a mysterious image. The person explains it was because the sovereign chose him for this mission. Not understanding, he wonders how his master awakened thanks to him. Then, he remembers the message he received on the stream after the battle. Noticing the connection, he starts to wonder if all this is somehow related to the game he was playing. The viewer says he might be confused, but he'll understand everything in time. Asking him to think of the skills as a thank you, he ends the explanation. He then asks how to use the abilities, since they seem to have conditions. The figure explains that conversation with the sovereign still needs time. Right then, he asks why the other skill won't activate due to lack of gold. The viewer seems not to understand the question, staying in total silence. Seeing the reaction, he finds the mysterious figure's confusion strange. The figure then grabs a book, as if consulting some information. After reading, he seems to finally understand the whole situation. Admitting the mistake, the figure says there seems to have been a misunderstanding. He's left not understanding, asking what he means by misunderstanding. Then the viewer warns that 50 gold will be deposited soon. After, he says the way to use the skill will be learned with time. Saying goodbye, the figure says he hopes to work together with him. The stream ends, and viewer number 1 finally leaves the live. Pinching his own cheek, he wonders if all that is a dream. Sitting in the chair, he confirms the person is involved in his reawakening. Suddenly, he hears the sound of a notification and looks surprised. Right then, the system warns that 50 gold was deposited in the account. The next message says the pact with the sovereign is active. With wide eyes, he sees the new ability finally working. In front of him, a list of available monsters for trade appears. He realizes that ability window is very familiar to him. Staring intently, he says it's just like the recruitment window from the game. Goblins, wolves, and orcs are some of the monsters he can summon. Pointing at the screen, he notes it's almost identical to what he saw in the game. He then wonders if he can summon the monsters in reality. Smiling, he thinks a summoned monster can fight in his place. With the gold he has, he sees he can only hire a goblin slave. Totally shocked, he's left speechless, staring at the screen in front of him. Focused on the sovereign, he wonders if she was the one who defeated the monsters. Seeing the absurd price, he says it would be impossible to hire her now. Even so, he seems to have a new plan in mind to continue. He then questions how he'll get the necessary gold for everything. Trying to remember, he searches his memory for how the game worked. Inside the game, one of the ways to get gold was clearing dungeons. The other way was hunting monsters and selling items for gold. Thinking about that, he concludes he needs to hunt monsters in the real world. Facing the harsh reality, he sees himself before gigantic monsters. Looking at his stats, he realizes the problem is being too weak. In that case, his only hope ends up being the goblin slave. Determined, he presses the button to spend his gold and summon the monster. With the purchase confirmed, the system begins the goblin slave summoning. He's thrown backward, surprised that a monster is being summoned. Preparing for impact, he holds firm against the summoning energy. He finds the powerful energy strange, wondering since when does a goblin have this strength. Seeing the creature that emerges, he's totally shocked at what's appearing. Changing scenes, he arrives at the Hunter Association building to register. At the reception, an employee types his data into the Hunter system. His Hunter file appears, confirming his E rank and no activity. The attendant confirms if he'll operate alone, and he requests registration. She then says that since it's his first request, there are 4 options available. Thinking a bit, he starts to analyze which mission is the least attention-grabbing. Looking at the options, he finally seems to have found what he was looking for. Pointing at the screen, he says he'll go with that one, surprising the attendant. She warns that the mission area has no support in case of emergency. With a confident smile on his face, he simply confirms his decision. With a somewhat awkward smile, he waits for her to understand his request. She then finalizes the registration, saying she'll send the information by text. To finish, she asks him to put his fingerprint on the verification machine. Adjusting her glasses, she says he can leave as soon as verification is complete. He nods and completes verification. location, saying he'll see her after the mission. Taking his first steps, he walks out of the Hunter Association. Finally, on his first activity, he decides he'll test his new ability. Arriving at the location, the request details show a mission to exterminate goblins. Walking down the dirt road, he announces he's almost at the village. Right then, he hears someone calling him Hunter and looks back. A man runs in his direction, welcoming the newly arrived hunter. With a strong handshake, the client greets him with great gratitude. The man bows, thanking him, but he says it's just his job. Asking about the goblins, he hears they're blocking access to the mountains. He understands nobody comes here since there's nothing to gain. The old man then asks if he'll be okay, saying the goblins are strong. With a worried expression, he says he's afraid the benefactor will get hurt. Holding his hand, he addresses the man as the village chief. With a confident smile, he promises nothing will happen to the village. Moved, the man thanks him deeply for the words of comfort and hope. Saying goodbye, the village chief keeps thanking him as he walks away. After calming the man down, he enters the forest, searching for the goblins. Arriving at the spot, he says there's nothing special so far, but suddenly, he hears a strange noise and looks in the direction of the sound. Nearby, a goblin fills a bowl with water from a small spring. Very thirsty, the monster drinks the water, making a strange noise. Seeing the scene, he's left not understanding what's happening there. He sees a group of goblins drinking water peacefully, as if they were relaxing. Shocked, he wonders why the monsters are acting like a bunch of uncles. Despite the strangeness, he realizes the situation is better than expected. Opening his inventory, he says he can summon the monster without worries. He grabs the summoning orb, preparing to test his new ability. Taking a step forward, he prepares to start his first battle. With a quick movement, he throws the summoning orb toward the monsters. Shouting the command, he orders the goblin slave to attack. The orb lands on the ground, catching the attention of the 3 distracted goblins. Doing nothing, the object stays on the ground, just glowing a bit. He gets confused, expecting something to happen with the orb. The goblins approach the object, looking curious at what it is. Suddenly, the creatures become furious and prepare for combat. He panics, questioning if that wasn't how summoning worked. Realizing it's too late to run, he sees himself surrounded by enemies. Determined to fight, he advances on the monsters without his summoning. Seeing him approach, the goblins run full speed to attack him. Preparing for the fight, he wonders if he can really do this. One of the goblins jumps in front of him, screaming while preparing a strike. With nowhere to run, he prepares his own body for impact. He lands a hit on the goblin, but he's surprised at what happens. Almost being hit, he sees the goblin's claws coming very close. Right then, a strong light shines, finally summoning the goblin slave. Coming in full force, the summon lands a hit and throws the enemy far away. He's totally surprised, not understanding that monster's strength. Remembering the game, his first monster was precisely a goblin slave. Back then, he put all his rare items on that monster. With just that unit, he managed to pass over 100 waves. That monster was Gano, who came with all his rank A items. It turns out a perk recovered his first hired monster's inventory. Without a chance to react, the first goblin is struck by an attack. Coming from above, Gano attacks with his weapon in a swift motion. He finishes the second goblin with a powerful strike to the ground. Right after, an energy blast falls from the sky and hits the ground. With only one left, the goblin faces the creature that defeated his companions. Terrified, the last goblin can't believe what's happening. Screaming in fear, he turns around and starts running desperately. At that, Gano prepares to chase the monster, trying to escape. One of his abilities is activated, showing the name of the skill. Small wings appear on his boots, preparing him to fly. With a massive energy explosion, he propels himself into the air. Flying at high speed, he advances toward the last enemy. The goblin looks back, seeing the strike approaching rapidly. Gano hits the last monster with a blow, finishing the battle. After everything, he turns around, looking satisfied with the result. Watching the scene, he's shocked by what just happened. He can't believe it, wondering if Gano was really that strong. A strange noise draws his attention to his summoned monster. Approaching, Gano seems to want to say something to his master. Suddenly, the creature starts poking him, leaving him a bit confused. Gano starts swaying, and he asks if he wants a pat on the back. He finds the monsters look strange, wondering why he's acting like this. A notification appears, showing that Gano's affinity is at 20. Looking at the screen, he questions what that affection meter is. He complains, saying this isn't a dating game to have affinity. The system warns that with maximum affinity, a new skill can be obtained. His eyes reflect the message, and he's surprised by the new ability. Hugging the monster, he praises Gano, saying he'd praise him all day long. With that, a notification shows that Gano's affinity increased by 10. Putting that aside, he prepares to continue his mission in the forest. Looking at the bodies, he complains that the monsters aren't dropping any items. Gano approaches, getting his attention with a strange noise. Then the creature starts picking up some items from the goblins' bodies. He shows the mana stones, offering the items to his master. Taking the stones, he wonders if those came from the goblins' bodies. Gano points to the depths of the forest, indicating there are more enemies. At the location, he comes across an energy portal spinning in the air. He wonders if that's a gate, but finds it too small. Gano holds the mana stones in his hand, as if wanting to do something. With a quick gesture, he throws the stones into the mysterious portal. The mana stones are absorbed, causing a reaction in the portal. A notification appears, saying the stones were sold for 30 gold. Thinking for a bit, he finally seems to have understood how everything works. Unlike the game, in reality, the monsters drop mana stones. Praising Gano, he pats his summoned monster's head. With the affection, Gano's affinity increases by 5 more points. He says he now needs to collect the proofs for the mission. Suddenly, he stops, sensing a strange presence approaching. In the sky, a flock of birds flies away, scared, fleeing from something. He and Gano prepare themselves, sensing the threat that's coming. Looking around, he wonders if there are more monsters nearby. Heavy, loud footsteps start echoing through the dense forest. A powerful attack opens a path of destruction through the trees. The trees are destroyed, revealing the mysterious enemy's strength. He realizes it's not a goblin, but something much larger coming. With his heart racing, he waits for the creature to finally appear. In front of him, a giant shadow emerges, revealing a new enemy. He's shocked, wondering why an ogre appeared there. That monster only usually appears in rank B or higher missions. Not understanding, he starts to sweat cold, facing the creature. Analyzing the monster, he notices the ogre has several scars. Even wounded, he knows an ogre's power is rank B or higher. A notification warns that Gano will return in just 3 minutes. Shocked by the warning, he realizes time is running out. Thinking fast, he wonders if he should flee while he still can. But Gano approaches, getting his attention with a strange sound. Carrying his weapon, he advances toward the ogre without fear. Facing the giant monster, Gano prepares for the big battle. With a confident look, he turns to his master for an instant. He understands the message and decides to trust his summoned monster. After all, Gano is his only hope of winning that fight. Rooting for victory, he sees Gano's flight ability being activated. With a quick impulse, he advances with everything at the ogre. He lands a direct hit right in the middle of the monster's chest. Screaming in pain, the ogre feels the force of that creature's attack. Retaliating the attack, the giant ogre swings his club with great force. Sliding on the ground, Gano manages to dodge the blow at the last second. Then he leaps over the enemy, preparing for a counterattack. Being caught by surprise, the ogre looks up, trying to find his target. In the air, Gano lands a powerful blow on the giant monster's back. Being thrown backward, he uses the momentum to gain more height. The ogre watches him flying, preparing for the next move. Falling at high speed, he prepares a strike with his sharp claws. With gritted teeth, he channels all his energy into a single blow. He descends with everything, hitting the ogre's head with great impact, but the monster grabs his arm, stopping the attack before being finished. With a furious look, the ogre squeezes his arm with great force. A strange energy starts coming out of the hand holding the monster. Screaming in pain, his arm is broken by the force of the ogre's grip. Even wounded, he doesn't give up, preparing to continue fighting. Spinning in the air, he manages to free himself from the ogre's grip. He's shocked to see the scene unfolding right in front of him. With a strong kick, he throws the giant ogre into the air. The monster falls headfirst on the ground, completely defeated by the blow. Landing with style, he shows himself victorious after the great battle. With a confident look, he faces the body of the enemy he just defeated. Not believing what he saw, he's left completely speechless. Running to his monster, he shouts Gano's name, relieved. He congratulates him for the good work, helping his monster get up. At that, a warning shows there are 5 seconds left before Gano returns. Before leaving, Gano picks up the mana stone from the ogre's body. With the item in hand, he says goodbye to his master for now. The countdown continues, with only 2 seconds remaining for the return. Smiling, he thanks and says goodbye, saying he'll see him next time. Finally, the summon ends, and Gano returns to the Lord's castle. Kneeling on the ground, he recovers the mana stone that fell on the ground. A notification warns that the next summon will be in 24 hours. He says defeating an ogre yielded a good reward. Suddenly, the selling gate opens in front of him. He understands the window appears automatically when picking up a mana stone. With a quick gesture, he throws the item into the portal. The mana stone sale yields 100 gold for him. With the new value, his total gold is now 130. A notification warns that a bonus is being calculated from the sale. The screen shows an additional reward, leaving him quite confused. The system then warns that he earned a premium gacha ticket. He remembers that in the game, this ticket was the only way to get rare items. With a mysterious energy, the gacha ticket starts glowing. The item is described as a special ticket to obtain rare items. Holding the gacha box, he prepares to see his reward. He wonders if the system items can be used by monsters. A notification warns that gacha items can be equipped by him. He remembers Gano's equipment, which transformed him into a god. With the ticket in hand, he wonders if this is his big chance. Suddenly, he hears someone shouting nearby and looks startled. A group of hunters appears, following the giant ogre's tracks. One of them says the ogre's trail definitely leads in that direction. But suddenly, he stops, leaving his teammate confused. She looks ahead, not understanding the reason for the sudden stop. He also looks in their direction, meeting the group of hunters. Following the trail, they finally find the ogre's body on the ground. He recognizes the team leader, Yoon Soo-ah, from the Pungbek Guild. Realizing the situation, he understands they were hunting the ogre. The hunter shouts for him to wait, approaching with the rest of the team. The group of hunters approaches him with firm and determined steps. Surrounding him, the hunter says they're from the Pungbek Guild and were tracking the ogre. At that, the leader asks, staring intently, if he was the one who defeated the monster. Not knowing what to say, he becomes visibly nervous with the question. Everyone stares at the scene, the ogre defeated and him standing alone. She's shocked, wondering how he defeated the monster by himself. Looking at the ogre, she can't believe he pulled off such a feat. After all, even wounded, that monster was at least B rank. Remembering the fight, she says that not even the three of them together could touch it. With a suspicious look, she concludes that he has A-rank abilities. Extending her hand, she introduces herself as Yoon Soo-ah from the Pungbek Guild. She analyzes him, wanting to know what kind of man he is. Shaking her hand, he introduces himself as Kim Han-ul. Suddenly, a bright light shines, showing a golden energy. A notification warns that the Archangel of the Heavens has taken an interest in him. She's shocked, wondering why a constellation took an interest in him. Looking at him, she finds him too ordinary to attract so much attention. Confirming her suspicion, she asks if he defeated the ogre alone. Suspicious, she wonders if he's hiding something from her. He says the ogre was a target that escaped, and that he got lucky. She counters, saying you don't kill a monster like that with luck. Smiling, she says she'll hand over all rights to the ogre. Confused, he wonders what she means by handing over the rights. She explains that the guild will handle the disposal and payment. He questions it, finding it strange that she'd give up the guild's prey. Then she says that in exchange, she'd like to ask for one thing. In front of him, she and her team stare at him, waiting for an answer. He braces for the worst, but is confused by the request. With her phone in hand, she prepares to make her request. Suddenly, she extends the phone with a passionate look. With a flushed face, she asks for his phone number. Completely shocked, he wonders if she really wants his number. In the distance, the village residents thank the hunter for his help. The village chief thanks him for saving everyone's lives. He says it's now safe to climb the mountain again. With a curious look, the old man seems not to understand the question. Smiling, he asks where the famous training monument is. The village chief is surprised, saying he did his homework. He explains that the place is famous for bringing good luck to everyone. Walking along the trail, he says he doesn't really believe in superstitions. Holding the box, he prepares to use the gacha he won. Arriving at the monument, he says maybe the place's energy will help. Suddenly, his phone vibrates, showing a message from Yoon Soo-ah. With the phone in hand, he wonders about the hunter he met. The message says she'll take care of the ogre's body as agreed. He's surprised, as she used her personal number to send a message. Taking a deep breath, he decides to ignore the message for now. Holding the box, he says it's time to open his rewards. Even with the bad drop chance, he hopes to get an A-rank item. The system then asks if he wants to use the ticket to open the chest. Shouting to open it, he consumes the ticket and the box starts to glow. A huge explosion of golden light comes out of the box, illuminating everything. The items in this box can come in various different ranks and rarities. The highest of all is S rank, which shines with a golden light. Seeing the light, he fills with hope, expecting an S-rank item. But suddenly, the color of the light changes, and his eyes reflect the red glow. Back at home, he seems to be thinking about everything that happened. Sitting in his chair, he relaxes a bit after a hectic day. He says he figured out how to get gold, but a problem came up. Pointing at the screen, he complains that he can't select anything. In the transaction list, most of the monsters are unavailable to him. A notification shows that only the Goblin Warrior and Berserker Ogre are available. He understands the Goblin, but doesn't understand why the Ogre is available. He wonders if he can only hire the monsters he himself defeated. If that's the case, He understands why only those two are unlocked. He realizes he needs to hunt the monsters, which is a difficult requirement. Remembering the item, he relives the scene where he used the gacha. With the observer's glasses, he believes he can get what he wants. He can't believe he got a unique grade item in the gacha. In the game lore, this item was worth more than several A-rank equipment pieces. The effects of this unique item are far superior to any other. On top of everything, he remembers he can also use the item. Putting on the glasses, he prepares to see the new effects. A great bluish energy envelops his body, activating the item's power. With the glasses on his face, he feels the new ability awakening. His status window shows an increase of 5 in all attributes. The new ability allows him to see a target's stats and skills. He's shocked, wondering if his stats really went up by 5. Smiling, he realizes the unique item's effect really works on him. He wonders if he can use the ability to see the enemy's information. Seeing the monster's stats, he realizes hunting will become easier. But one thing still bothers him. While he cleans the glasses, he wonders why he's receiving all this power for free. Sitting at his desk, he questions why everything is happening to him. Suddenly, a red warning appears, flashing frantically on his screen. The message says the monster wave is about to begin. Not understanding, he reads the warning to prepare his defenses immediately. Several warnings start flashing, leaving him completely terrified. Looking at the screen, he realizes what's happening there. In front of him, the screen from the game he played appears out of nowhere. The notification warns that Wave 701 will begin in 10 minutes. He wonders if it's a monster wave, like in the game. An image shows a horde of dragons and monsters approaching. He wonders if he really needs to stop that monster horde now. Looking for a way out, he wonders if he can refuse the mission. The system warns that if he fails, the Lord's castle will fall. Shocked, he reads that on top of that, all his powers will disappear. His eyes reflect the image of a huge explosion in the city. A terrible vision shows the entire city being destroyed by flames. The final message warns that if he fails, the world will be destroyed. With time running out, the Wave 701 warning stays on the screen. Staring at the screen, he braces himself for the challenge ahead. In disbelief, he wonders if he really needs to stop the monsters. The portal's energy begins to intensify, preparing for the invasion. He realizes the screen is identical to the game he used to play. Besides, the penalty for losing makes no sense to him at all. The countdown continues, with just over 9 minutes remaining. Determined, he says there's no point in overthinking this anymore. Placing his hand on the screen, he prepares to interact with the system. After all, the most important thing now is stopping the monsters that are coming. In the game, the objective was simply to prevent monsters from attacking the castle, but the brutal difficulty demanded a very well-crafted strategy. Besides positioning the monsters, you had to use defensive structures. With multiple information windows, the player needed to manage everything. It was also necessary to use a wide variety of items and tactics. He notices the controls work by touch, like on a tablet. So he decides to see what forces are available for battle. The system begins checking the available monsters for the confrontation. The notification warns that 4 monsters were delivered from selling stones. With that, a total of 5 monsters are available for use. His monster list shows 1 slave, 3 fighters, and 1 ogre. He wonders if he can use the castle lord, like before, but the system warns that the butler and lord are unavailable. He then tries to buy new troops with the gold he has. Tapping the screen, he tries to access the game's monster shop, but it's impossible to recruit new monsters after receiving the wave warning. The system begins showing the monster wave information. The notification warns that Wave 701 is about to begin. Count Gular and his elite unit, the Dragon's Children, appear. A total of 61 monsters, including wyverns and half-dragons, will attack. The star rank is a metric to indicate combat power. Since rank represents the monster's potential, the difference is crucial. If the power gap is too large, the fight doesn't even start. He panics, because he needs to stop 6-star and 5-star monsters. At this rate, he says he can't handle even one of them. Without gold or monsters, he wonders how he'll form a strategy. A special benefit notification appears, giving new hope. He can select 1 defensive structure and 1 item for battle. He questions whether it's possible to beat Wave 701 with just that. Finding it insane, he can't believe he can win with only 2 advantages. But as a game veteran, he says he has his own tricks. Tapping the screen, he says he played longer than anyone else. Even if others doubt him, he prepares to show his strategy. With time running out, he says it's possible if he uses all his knowledge. 5 minutes remaining, he says, with these troops. Victory is possible. With time almost up, he prepares for the great battle. 15 seconds left. He says he can definitely hold them off. The countdown reaches 0 and preparation time ends. With everything ready, he says he did everything he could to prepare. He challenges the monsters, ready to face the incoming wave. In the sky, the dragon horde prepares for the imminent attack. Flying at high speed, they advance toward the castle. The system warns that the wave is starting and battle will begin. The dragons charge forward, ready to destroy the defenses. One of the monsters is hit by a protective energy barrier. The creature slams hard, thrown back by the shield. Surprised, Count Gular observes the barrier protecting the castle. All the monsters begin attacking the barrier, but without success. Smiling, he sees his defense strategy worked perfectly. The infinite barrier defends the castle, losing only 1 durability. The infinite barrier can only be installed with 2-star monsters or lower. This makes it an exclusive item for beginners, which is quite literal. One of the wyverns launches a powerful fire strike against the barrier. The attack hits dead on, and the notification warns that the shield took damage. With multiple attacks, the barrier's durability begins dropping rapidly. Smiling, he says the problem isn't the attack, but the number of enemies. With 61 monsters attacking, durability falls by half in seconds. But he says he has a way to deal with that too. Starting to click frantically, he shows his special technique. The barrier restores 1 durability per click, and he begins repairing. With monsters attacking, he wonders how he'll manage to defeat them. From the castle, a massive golden light beam shoots toward the sky. The attack hits one of the wyverns, causing 1 damage to the creature. Normally, a goblin couldn't damage a wyvern, but with a special item, the golden spoon, this becomes possible. With the spoon, the monster can deal damage ignoring rank. The attacks begin hitting, causing 1 damage to each monster. Even a wyvern can't dodge the small but continuous attacks. He says if they keep getting hit, they'll eventually die. Calculating the time, he realizes he'll need many hours of attacks. To defeat them all, it would take about 60 hours of continuous attacks. Now, all that remains is repairing the barrier and holding out for 60 hours. Starting to click, he wonders whether he or the monsters will fall first. While the barrier's durability rises, his monsters continue attacking. He questions whether the enemies will die first from the spoon's attack. Meanwhile, the dragons continue their relentless attacks against the barrier. Count Gular and the goblin lock eyes in a battle of endurance. The attacks continue, with the barrier being hit non-stop by enemies. Drops of sweat fall to the ground, showing the fatigue of the long battle. Wiping the sweat, he says this isn't as easy as he thought. He says maybe he should drink some water to hydrate, but when trying to grab the bottle, he feels his body being paralyzed. Shocked, he wonders what's happening to his body. A notification warns that other actions are restricted during the game. With fist clenched, he realizes he's trapped in front of the screen. He then wonders if he should just stay quiet and play the game. With his movements restricted, he continues clicking frantically on the screen. He needs to click for 60 hours, which would drive anyone to despair. But for him, the game is just beginning, and he's ready. Count Gular continues attacking, but the barrier resists bravely. One of the dragons fires a fire strike, which is defended by the barrier. With multiple attacks, the barrier's durability continues dropping rapidly. Smiling, he says it's for this thrill that he played the game. The monsters keep attacking with everything, but the barrier doesn't yield. After 2 hours, he keeps clicking, with 57 hours remaining. Even with the penalty, he has no reason to give up the fight. With a shout, he faces the screen, ready to see who will win. With their weapons in hand, the goblins charge straight at the enemies. Then, the larger creatures start taking multiple hits in rapid succession. Continuing his strategy, he stays completely focused on the screen. He realizes that 12 hours have already passed, and there are still 48 to go. Analyzing the damage, he says he can slowly take them all down. Back at the battle, one of the goblins lands a hit on the opponent. With that, he keeps commanding all his units through the panel. After a lot of effort, 2 of the creatures are finally defeated. Seeing the result, he says the monsters are finally falling. In the game, a voice says they need to hold strong. Even exhausted, he notices the enemy count has decreased more. After staying up all night, day finally breaks. He remains standing in his room, his eyes glued to the game. With great determination, he sees that victory is getting closer and closer. Meanwhile, the flying monsters continue their relentless attack. Continuing the assault, his units defeat 3 more enemy creatures. Inside the game, the monster leader faces the battle ahead. Then, a powerful strike hits the ground, kicking up a lot of dust. With only 2 enemies remaining now, the battle nears its end. Still standing, he can barely stay awake from exhaustion. Then he points at the screen and confirms there are only 2 left. Suddenly, a danger alert appears because of the durability. Running at high speed, the goblin charges against the remaining monsters, but one of the enemies attacks from range, hitting the ground. From the sky, one of the remaining creatures prepares a spinning attack. Getting ready to strike, the creature charges up a powerful blow. It then fires 2 strikes toward the allied base. With that, the strikes hit the protective barrier dead on. Showing the durability has reached 0, the barrier breaks. Receiving the notification of the destroyed barrier, he's left with no reaction. Startled, he says he dozed off for a second and forgot to repair it. He thinks that if the monarch's castle takes a single hit, it's all over. Then, one of his units advances spinning to defend the base. Noticing the action, He shouts the name of the unit that moved forward alone. Flying at high speed, the two creatures prepare for impact. Running through the hall, the goblin rushes to intercept the giant monster. Arriving at the location, he finds the enemy waiting for him up ahead. Without hesitation, he leaps directly toward the creature to attack. Preparing his strike, he gets ready to hit the enemy hard, but the opponent manages to land a fatal blow before getting hit. Seeing his unit being destroyed, he watches the scene in complete shock. In the game, the sky fills with debris after the confrontation. Seizing the chance, another goblin jumps on top of the last enemy. He finally receives the notification saying he managed to pass the stage. Looking at the screen, he says he finally managed to reach his goal. Celebrating his achievement, he shouts that he finally managed to win. Fallen to his knees, he says he really managed to complete the challenge. Right after, he passes out from exhaustion and drops hard to the floor. After some time, he wakes up on the floor with the sun beating down. Feeling a strong headache, he wonders if he passed out. Then, he looks at his hand and gets quite confused. A reward screen appears, detailing his great victory. Sitting on the floor, he wonders if those items are from the monsters. He questions whether there's any specific use for them like in the game. Another screen appears, saying 3 conditions are missing for a new ability. Next, the system shows that 2 of the conditions have already been completed. Warning that upon completing the remaining ones, the special ability will be unlocked. Even questioning the conditions, he says he'll be able to use it soon. Then, he's shocked to see the final reward notification. A box appears in front of him, emitting a very bright light. Before him, the final reward transforms into a large panel. Totally confused, he wonders what that thing is that appeared. On his desk, his phone suddenly starts glowing. On the screen, a notification warns him he has 7 missed calls. Changing scenes in a building, he says he still doesn't understand. She asks what happened, and he responds about that E-rank thing. Believing it's a fraud, he says the guy took the credit. Even so, she comments that the story didn't seem like a lie. At that moment, the sound of a door opening breaks the silence. Turning quickly, she's surprised to see the person who arrived. Running down the hallway, the guy arrives apologizing out loud. Seeing him approach, the man asks if he waited a long time. Bowing down, he explains he couldn't answer the calls earlier, but the guild leader asks if he thinks that's enough. Then the girl yells at him, telling him to stop that. Telling himself to stay quiet, he notices the man followed his sister. She then says it's all right, and he thanks her for understanding. Explaining the reason for the visit, she asks if they start with the report or payment. Thinking for a moment, he prepares to give his answer. With a smile on his face, he decides to start with the association report. Changing scenes, an association employee listens to the account attentively. Already in the office, the hunter affirms he defeated the monster alone. Then the guild vice leader asks if she doesn't believe them. She says she does, but a formal verification will still be necessary. Asking about the procedure, he hears they need to measure his abilities. For that, the employee explains they'll use a manometer. His partner says she hasn't had the chance to check the stats yet. Trying to find another way, she's interrupted by him saying it's all good. Full of confidence, he tells them to start the measurement right now. Inside the room, the meter announces the measurement is complete. Being announced, his rank is confirmed as D. They comment, it would be strange if Hanel's result was bad. He thinks that if the newbie doesn't have ability, he can simply ignore him. It's confirmed he didn't use potions or items to improve himself. Remembering the past, he recalls measuring his mana there 7 years ago. Announcing Hunter Kim Hanel, the mana measurement then begins. With his hand on the crystal, he awaits the result of his test. Suddenly, a very bright light starts coming out of the crystal. Everyone watches attentively what's happening with the meter. Before that scene, the man in the coat doesn't understand anything. Then, the power coming out of the crystal increases absurdly. Ending with a glow, the measurement is given as complete by the system. Then the analysis begins showing what his mana rank is. He stares at the crystal, waiting to see what will be revealed. And to everyone's surprise, his rank is finally revealed as S. Seeing that, the people around are completely shocked by the result. While they watch, he just gives a small, confident smile. The system then starts checking what the final reward for Wave 701 will be. Surprised, he sees that he's acquired a new skill and wonders what it does. The description says it adds the stats of the strongest monster from the previous wave. He's shocked to realize he can use the powerful Count Gular's stats. His status window shows just how strong he becomes with the new skill activated. Back in the room, he thinks about his luck getting the skill right in time for the test. He knows that even though it doesn't last long, his stats match those of a true S rank. But to everyone there who doesn't know the truth, the situation will look very different. He'll look like a simple rookie who just awakened as a powerful S rank. Meanwhile, the two agents watch him from afar, still processing what they saw. Approaching, the man congratulates him on a job well done, and he just thanks him for the compliment. He asks if the test is enough to prove he was the one who defeated the ogre. The guild man says the measurement was already all the proof they needed. He thanks them both for their help, but they say all the credit was his. Announcing he's leaving, he then turns around and starts walking away from the place. But before he goes, the man in the coat calls out his name. With a serious tone, he invites him to grab coffee sometime. He then introduces himself as the vice leader of the powerful Pungbak Guild. Seeing the scene, everyone is shocked that the vice leader came to recruit him personally. With a smile, he says he'll pass on the coffee invitation. He adds that if it's about the guild, he'll talk directly with Su-ah. Turning his back, he continues on his way and leaves the place. Without a reaction, the vice leader stands there and wonders who that guy is. Quickly, news about a rookie S rank spreads across the internet. Already in his room, he's startled to see he became famous overnight. He receives a message saying his rank jumped from E to B all at once. Thinking a bit, he regrets not being able to go straight to S rank because of the rules. Starting his stream, he greets everyone and says he also saw the news. His friends comment that it seems some big shot from Pungbak tried to recruit him. At that, one of them confirms he was called but refused the offer right away. Realizing they're talking about him, he announces new special content about hunters. He says what he prepared for today is content totally focused on them. Showing the group members, he reveals he's going to show something completely new. He then asks viewers for suggestions on which dungeon he should clear first. One of the group members questions if he's really going to stream the entire raid. After all, hunters have an agreement, and streaming a raid is against the law. He explains he'll only post the certificate and tell what's allowed. One of them then suggests he go to the dangerous Mad Dragon's Nest. At that moment, a fan makes a 50,000 won donation to him. Another person appears and yells for him to go to the Giant's kitchen instead. Right after, a 1 million won donation appears on the streamer's screen. He suggests the hunter invade the spider forest and face the queen. The girl complains, saying you can't cut the line just by donating more. Asking everyone to calm down, he tries to control the chaos that started there. Suddenly, he stops talking and looks surprised at something that appeared. A massive 10 million won donation suddenly appears on the screen. Shocked, he yells in disbelief that someone donated 10 million won to him. His friends comment the guy must be a bot or very rich. A mysterious donor appears and says he doesn't know how to send messages properly. He then asks which dungeon the viewer wants him to go to. With a mysterious voice, the viewer starts to say what the place is. He recommends the hunter go to the deepest part of the meditation garden. His friends say it's crazy since nobody's ever cleared that place. He starts thinking about the garden, remembering it has 3 different sectors. Remembering the map, he knows the entrance is easy, but the lake is dangerous. He knows the exploration record suddenly stops at the lake part. It was Yoon Soo-hyuk who got the farthest, but didn't make it past the center. Thinking he'll manage to get to the deepest part seems impossible, but the donor warns he doesn't need to clear it, just reach the end. Surprised, he understands the mission is simpler than it seemed. Promising full support, the donor says he'll help if he tries. His friends protest, warning that if he dies, the content won't matter at all. Thinking about the proposal, he figures he can go to the deepest part and come back. With that viewer's help, he believes he might have a real chance. After thinking for a bit, he finally makes a decision about the challenge. Shouting with determination, he raises his fist and decides to accept the mission. Changing scenes, he goes to the hunter's building to make a request. Requesting a solo expedition, he confirms he wants to go to the deepest sector. Surprised, the woman asks if he really means the deepest part. Even with her warning of the danger, he insists she process the request. Getting the message, she schedules the expedition for a week from now. Questioning the date, he asks if he can't go earlier since it's a solo mission. Checking the system, she says there's an opening for tomorrow and he agrees. With everything settled, she confirms the raid for 4 in the afternoon the next day. After resolving everything, he gets up and walks down the hallway. Leaving the building behind, he walks with an air of confidence. But as he exits, a voice calls out asking if he's Hunter Kim Han-ul. Approaching him, a man asks if he has a minute for a conversation. Introducing themselves, they reveal they're the HR leaders of the Aegis and Samurai guilds. Taking the cards, he understands the approach is because of his evaluation. They say their guilds are always waiting for a hunter like him. Recognizing the names, he knows they're 2 of the 3 major guilds in Korea. They guarantee they'll offer much better terms than the Pungbak Guild. Thanking them for the offer, he says he needs to resolve something first and asks to talk later. Turning to leave, he ignores their attempt to talk about payment. He knows joining a guild now would only delay him from his goal. On a call, he asks the person if they remember the Garden of Meditation. On the other end of the line, Yoon Soo-hyuk confirms he remembers the place well. He then reveals he's planning to go to the deepest part of the garden. Saying he knows the risks, he explains he called to get some information. Questioning the attitude, the vice leader asks why he should give any information. He states confidently that he has a way to clear the Garden of Meditation completely. On the other side, the man is surprised and asks if he's serious. With a smile, he says that if he succeeds, he'll tell the press he did it with their help. Noticing the confidence, the man asks if he really thinks he can clear the dungeon alone. He confirms yes, leaving the vice leader thoughtful about what to do next. Then, the man makes a counteroffer and asks him to join the guild first. Refusing right away, he says he won't accept the guild contract now. He reveals that morning, the Samurai and Aegis guilds also approached him to negotiate. Surprised, the vice leader asks if representatives from the other guilds went to him personally. Thinking about his rivals, he gets irritated they're trying to steal a talent he discovered first. He takes the chance and says his proposal is great to get ahead of the competitors. Sighing, the man realizes he doesn't have much choice and decides to give in to the proposal. Warning he knows nothing about the deep part, he says he'll tell what he knows. With a smile, he responds that this help is already more than enough for him. On the scheduled day, the dungeon entrance appears as a tower floating in the sky. Arriving at the location, he sees a group of people already gathered there waiting. He walks up to them, and the system shows he has an item equipped. Seeing him arrive alone, one of the men asks if he's the lone newbie. Introducing himself, the group leader is called Cho Kwang-soo from the Bulgul Guild. He shakes his hand and introduces himself, but the man says he already knows. Confirming the rumors, the man asks if he's the kid with S-rank mana. With an irritated tone, he says they had to wait a month to enter. He complains the newbie just enters alone for being a special hunter. Unlike him, the man explains his guild has a specific mission to fulfill. Squeezing his hand hard, he warns not to even think about asking for help. With a smile, he just says they can do things that way. Releasing his hand, the man says measured rank means nothing in a fight. Faced with that hostility, he just observes the group of hunters in silence. He understands he was lucky to enter, while they had to follow the rules. For waiting a month, it's normal they're irritated with his presence. Adjusting his glasses, the system activates an ability called Eye of the Sage. Using his special vision, he discovers everyone there is only C rank. Realizing their weakness, he smiles knowing no one there can follow him. Not understanding, the man thinks that if he's a C rank, they won't meet. Turning back, the group leader asks the reason for that strange smile. Furious, he asks if the newbie is mocking them, and a member gets irritated. Asking for silence, a person starts preparing the spell to open the portal. Saying it's time, a large entrance portal opens in front of them. Warning the gate won't stay open, everyone starts entering the dungeon. Being his first time, he prepares to truly enter a dungeon. Taking the first step, he finally crosses the portal and enters the garden. He wonders what awaits him inside while watching the portal close. Then, a system window informs the details about that specific dungeon. Suddenly, a mysterious voice calls him and says he finally arrived. Wishing him luck, the same voice says it hopes he does well. Then a system warning says the structure of the place is being changed. Already inside the dungeon, the other group prepares to start their mission. Looking around, the group leader feels something is very wrong. Astonished, he realizes the place where they are is totally unknown to him. Standing at the edge of the lake, they observe a giant tree that sits right in the center. He then despairs, noticing that's not the main entrance gate. A hunter asks about the lake, and the leader confirms something strange happened. Another member also finds it weird, and they wonder where they ended up now. Even he realizes the situation is much more bizarre than it seemed before. The entrance to that place should be easy, but the scenery isn't what they described. Then the system warns they're at the lake of the Garden of Meditation, surprising everyone. A message shows the local monsters hid after a great massacre. Their mission is to protect the remaining monsters from the assassins until nightfall. The system then warns that if they fail, all challengers will die. In panic, the group screams, realizing the mission could lead to their death. While one of them complains about the situation, he continues observing everything very calmly. A member suggests giving up, telling the leader to open the status window and leave. Trying to exit, the group leader warns his team he can't. Screaming desperately, he says the status window simply won't respond anymore. At that moment, the system shows only 130 monsters remain. Then a new message warns 2 more were eliminated by the mysterious assassin, and right after, the monster count decreases again, showing the danger. The system shows that the number of protected monsters keeps decreasing with each passing moment. Seeing that the killer took down 2 more, they stand there not knowing what to do. Furious, the group leader wonders what the hell is happening in this place. Turning to him, the man asks if he has any idea about the lake. He says he doesn't know why this is happening, but he knows the place. Hearing this, the group leader's face shows an expression of relief. Asking him to explain, the man promises to help with whatever he needs in return. Remembering the deal, he says he has only one condition to be able to help. He proposes to share what he knows, if everyone follows his orders until they get out of there. Staring at the leader, he asks if the group is capable of accepting this deal. One of them complains, saying he wants total command of their guild. While they argue, 4 more monsters are eliminated by the mysterious killer. After thinking, the leader finally gives in and accepts the imposed condition. He warns that if something goes wrong, all the blame will be on him. Saying the choice was theirs, he warns that responsibility belongs to whoever decides. With the deal sealed, the leader asks what the plan for the mission is. He says he'll first explain the terrain so everyone understands the place. Grabbing a stick, he starts drawing on the ground to illustrate his strategy. He shows the group a complete map of the entire lake sector. Explaining the geography, he says the forest streams flow into the central lake. Questioned about how he knows, he lies saying he has a scouting ability. The leader is impressed, thinking that with this skill, they'd never get lost. But in truth, he's just passing along the information he got from Yoon Soo-hyuk. Remembering the map, he accesses the data the mysterious donor provided. With the detailed map of the castle, he prepares for the next phase of the plan. He explains they need to find the monsters and protect them from enemies. Then he says the strategy is to reach the locations before the killer does. With everything explained, he stands up and wraps up the plan presentation. While he speaks, 3 more monsters are eliminated by the mysterious killer. Warning that they're dying, he orders everyone to move as fast as possible. Shouting the orders, he tells the group to move and follow the agreed rotation. The leader of that group just watches the hunter with a serious expression on his face. Asking what he's going to do, the man hears that he'll search for the monsters alone. Grumbling a bit, the leader agrees and says goodbye to start his own mission. With the group gone, he finally manages to be alone so he can explore the area. Then, a system window warns that there's a secret mission hidden in that lake. Knowing the new information, he focuses on discovering what this secret mission is. With everything ready, he prepares to begin his solo search through the forest. While walking, he decides he needs to discover 2 important things during the exploration. The first is the secret mission, and the second is who the monster killers are. It becomes clear that there are other monsters there besides the ones the mission mentioned. Advancing carefully, he hides when he notices a strange movement in the forest. Suddenly, a group of lizard men appears right in front of him, armed with spears. Seeing those creatures, he understands they might be the monster killers. Watching from afar, he confirms that those bastards are who he was looking for. Knowing the situation got complicated, he realizes the lizard men are strong in packs. Far from there, one of the members of the other guild decides to ignore the agreed plan. Saying he doesn't follow orders from a nobody, he walks off with his partner. Then he gets irritated seeing that the 2 are coming in his direction. Thinking about just killing time, one of them prepares to fight the creatures. Starting the combat, a lizard man advances and lands a hit on one of the hunters. The creature stares at him up close while continuing with its fast and violent strikes. With just a few movements, the 2 hunters are easily defeated by the creatures. Fallen on the ground, one of them lies completely motionless after receiving the blows. Victorious, the lizard man stands still, observing the result of the quick combat that happened. Seeing his partner on the ground, the other hunter gets scared of the lizard man. Irritated for being only rank D, he prepares to attack the creature with force. With his fist closed, he concentrates all his power to deliver a single blow. He charges forward and lands a powerful hit right in the middle of the lizard man. But to his surprise, the creature takes the hit without suffering any damage. Screaming that he's dead, the hunter lands a strong blow on the creature. Despite the hit, the lizardman grabs his arm without any difficulty. The system then warns that they receive a strength bonus for fighting in groups. Not understanding, the hunter is shocked to see that his attack didn't work. Surrounded by them, the creature's rank suddenly rises to Class B. Taking a strong hit, the hunter is thrown far away with the impact. Another lizardman advances from above, preparing a final blow to strike him, but suddenly something appears out of nowhere and manages to block the creature's blow. While the lizard man faces the defense, the hunter looks up without understanding. Then an armored figure appears and protects him from the creature's attack. Being summoned on sight, the system announces that the being's name is Gono. With a single strike, Gono sends all the lizardmen flying away at once. Standing in the middle of the battle, the summoned creature remains by the hunter's side. Shocked by the appearance, he wonders if that's a goblin and where it came from. Approaching, he says he set up a designated area for them to stay safe. He then tells the hunter to go treat his wounds, as he'll take care of everything. Seeing the group of lizard men, the hunter thanks him and prepares to leave. Warning that they're short on time, he tells his servant Gono to hurry up in the fight. He says they need to finish quickly, as they have an important mission to complete. At that moment, the lizard men prepare to attack all at once. He then gives an order to his servant, telling him to finish them all off. Activating a skill, Gono advances at high speed toward the enemies. With his fast movements, he begins attacking all the lizard men at once. The creatures stand frozen, unable to react to the blows he delivers. Facing the attack, one of the lizardmen is left without reaction before the speed. His eyes widen as he sees the attack coming in his direction rapidly. Spinning his weapon, he hits several lizardmen with a single blow. Continuing the attack, he advances against another creature with his weapon. His strike lands squarely, breaking through the enemy's defense with force. With a devastating blow, he manages to defeat another one of the lizardmen. The creature tries to react, but is thrown far away without a chance to defend. Spinning again, Gano hits another one of the enemies with a powerful attack. The force of his blow creates an impact that raises dust everywhere. Without stopping for a second, he continues fighting against the group of creatures. He just watches the fight, remembering that Gano defeated an ogre alone. Preparing a powerful strike, the lizard man leader advances against Gano. Suddenly, he realizes the lizard man is coming in his direction. Ignoring Gano, the creature advances and prepares to attack the hunter. At that moment, a system window appears, activating a new skill. The description explains that it adds the stats of the monster from the last wave. With the skill activated, he closes his fist and prepares to fight. Blocking the attack, he lands a devastating blow right in the creature's chest. With his fist clenched, he prepares a strike with his full strength. His blow hits the creature squarely, sending it flying far away. The lizardman's armor lies in pieces on the ground after the impact. His skill uses the power of the fearsome monster called Count Gular. With the power activated, he has a confident smile on his face. The system window shows that his stats were increased by the skill. Then his servant Gano approaches, and he asks if he's also finished. Gano appears with his weapon, showing he's already defeated the other monsters. Saying good job, he praises Gano for his efficiency in battle. Soon after, the system begins selling the mana stones that were dropped. Seeing he got a ticket, he decides he'll use it after the mission. But the system warns that Gano only has 7 minutes before going back. Seeing the time limit, he tries to figure out if there's a way around it. Gano makes some gestures, and he asks what the servant is trying to say. The system warns that he can pay to extend Gano's summoning time. Irritated, he realizes he has no choice and needs to pay for the overtime. Suddenly, he stops and looks surprised at something approaching them. A huge group of little monsters appears out of nowhere and runs in his direction. He's left without reaction, seeing the amount of creatures that appeared suddenly. Not knowing where they came from, he worries about how he'll move with them. Gano approaches the monsters and begins trying to communicate with all of them. Surprised, he realizes his servant can talk to the small creatures. With his help, Gano manages to get the monsters to follow him. All the little monsters begin crying with happiness when they see the hunter. Being surrounded, he asks Gano what he said to make them act like this. The creatures begin walking with him, following his steps through the forest. With no choice, he decides to finish exploring the area along with the little monsters. Praising Gano, he opens a portal to leave the battle site, but the system warns that the castle ran out of funds to buy the stones. The system warns that the castle is out of funds and cannot collect more stones. Another message says the unit limit for the castle was exceeded by the system. Surprised, he never imagined the castle could run out of gold to invest. He realizes there's no point hunting the lizardmen that are around anymore. Counting the monsters, he sees he's already managed to save about 60 of them. The system then updates and shows that only 70 monsters remain to be saved. This means the other guild only managed to save 10 of the monsters. But suddenly, he notices a strange movement in the dark forest. The little monsters begin running desperately towards something unknown. Not understanding, he asks where the creatures are going in such a hurry. He runs after them, trying to keep up with the group of little monsters that won't stop. Suddenly, all the creatures stop running and stand still looking ahead. Tired, he stops and asks where they are and why they stopped there. Then he realizes they've reached the center of the lake, where the other group is. He realizes the little monsters ran there because of some danger. He realizes the little monsters guided everyone to that specific location. Then, the system informs that the assassins finally stopped hunting the monsters. Suddenly, night falls, and a bright light illuminates the center of the lake. With 70 monsters remaining, the mission is completed and they are congratulated. A secret objective is achieved for having saved more than 70 creatures. Out of nowhere, a huge surge of water begins rising from the lake. Being caught by surprise, the other hunters scream desperately at what's happening. As the water rises, the system announces that the meditation test is about to begin. As the test begins, a torrent of water engulfs the entire group of hunters. The force of the water throws them from side to side, giving them no chance to defend. The current grows stronger and stronger, dragging everyone with its immense force. Screaming in pain, they're struck by the water with relentless violence. The little monsters and his servant are also swept away by the force of the water. He tries to protect himself, but realizes he can't dodge that current. His eyes widen as he sees the water coming with even more force. But suddenly, the little monsters gather together and form a barrier around him. Not understanding, he realizes the creatures are protecting him from the water. He and his servant stay in the center, while the little monsters create a shield. The system then alerts him that the creatures are expressing their gratitude. One of the little monsters makes a noise, showing they're there to protect him. The message says now it's their turn to protect their savior. All the little monsters unite to create a protective barrier against the water. The final test is to endure 10 minutes with the help of the souls he saved. With a smile, he admits he didn't expect the little monsters would help. Observing the barrier, he understands there was a reason to save them. He realizes the little monsters he saved are now protecting him. Then he understands that the more he saves, the safer he is in the test. Looking at the other group, he notices they only have one creature. Their barrier is weak, and they're barely holding against the water. Time passes, and the timer shows there are still 9 minutes left in the test. Worried, he wonders if they'll manage to survive until the end. He sees that all the other hunters are in the same difficult situation. With their weak barrier, they're suffering greatly from the force of the water. He needs to find a way to help, but doesn't know how to do it. But suddenly, his eyes widen when he sees a new message from the system. A secret mission is discovered, giving new hope to everyone there. The mission is to suppress the source of the test to end the danger. He needs to find and defeat the monster that's causing the test. Remembering the hint, he knows the secret mission is in the lake. He searched everywhere, but it was there all along. With everything ready, he activates his special Eye of the Sage ability. Using the vision, he tries to figure out which bastard he needs to defeat. The system detects a monster and asks if he wants to activate the ability. With a smile, he says he finally found his target and activates the power. His vision reveals the monster's stats, whose name is Zen Karuk. Shocked, he realizes the monster is a named and special type. These monsters use unique abilities and are on a totally different level. He understands that the secret mission wouldn't be an easy task to complete. He tells his servant Gono to stay out of this fight for now, warning that he has no water resistance. The fight would be too risky. With a smile, he says, now is the time to recruit a new monster. The system activates the exchange, showing a list of monsters to recruit. He prepares to use the system and summon a new creature to help. From the list, he chooses the Berserker Ogre for having resistance against water. But he knows the Ogre has no items and isn't strong enough. He understands he needs an item to increase his monster's stats. Using his ticket, he hopes to get a good item for the Ogre. He decides to bet everything on luck and uses the ticket for the gacha. The system consumes the ticket, and a strong light begins to shine from the chest. Shocked, he sees a golden light, which indicates a rare item. The light reveals he got a powerful S-rank item for the ogre. But suddenly, he looks to the side and gets confused by the scene. The test's current grows stronger and the barrier begins to crack. With no time to waste, he decides to act fast before it's too late. The system confirms the recruitment, and the Berserker Ogre is summoned on site. With a roar, the ogre appears with its full strength for battle. Shouting, he orders the ogre to equip the S-rank item he got. The system then confirms, and the Berserker Ogre equips the new item. But suddenly, the summoned ogre begins to fall, leaving him and Gano confused. He then wonders why the ogre fell, thinking something went wrong. Feeling the pressure of the water, he begins to scream because of the pain. Crying for help, the others are dragged by the violent current of the test. Realizing he has no choice, he advances against the water to resolve the situation. He then decides he'll have to take care of everything with his own hands. With his ability active, he tries to use the power to withstand the current. Gripping his own arm, he concentrates to use his maximum power. Screaming in pain, he struggles to stay firm against the force of the water. With his hand extended, he uses all his strength to resist the dangerous test. Being thrown upward, he fights not to be dragged by the lake's current. Even using his ability, he realizes the power isn't enough to endure. Feeling his hand slip, he thinks he won't make it, and that this is the end. But suddenly he feels the water's current getting weaker. With wide eyes, he's surprised to notice the sudden change in the water. Seeing that the current stopped, he realizes it was the ogre who saved him. Turning to his master, the ogre asks if he's okay and unharmed. With a bow, he asks forgiveness for taking so long to introduce himself formally. He then declares himself as a humble servant before the great King of Kings. Not understanding anything, he just observes what's happening with his monster. He understands that the S-rank hat changed the ogre, giving him consciousness. Still in disbelief, he asks how the hell the ogre can even talk to him. He stares at the ogre, shocked by the transformation the S-rank item caused. The ogre explains that it's all thanks to the hat his master gave him. With a clenched fist, he asks his master to give him his first order. He's shocked because he knew the item increased the monster's intelligence. Ogres shouldn't be able to talk, but this one can communicate perfectly with him. He realizes that if what he saw is right, that's not all that changed. Before giving the order, he asks if the ogre can use any kind of magic. The ogre confirms he can, and that he used magic to block the current. With a smile, he realizes the monster is far more powerful than he imagined. He then gives the first order, telling the ogre to advance to the center. The ogre prepares to fulfill the first mission his master gave him. With determination, he promises he'll ensure the success of that important mission. With all his strength, he advances against the current to reach the center. Seeing the ogre's magic, he names him Odolf. Surprised, the ogre asks if his master is really giving him a name. Moved, he's emotional about receiving a name from his master. Shouting, he swears he'll give his life to repay this debt of gratitude. With his strength, Odolf clears a path in the water so they can advance. Shouting, the ogre uses all his power to push the current away. At this pace, he knows they'll reach the center of the lake pretty fast. But suddenly, the named monster senses something approaching them. With his staff, it launches a powerful spell in their direction. The monster prepares to block their advance with its strong magic. With a single strike, the creature's magic manages to stop their advance. Odolf warns that a magic barrier is blocking the path to the center. He then tells the ogre to hit the barrier hard to try and break it. Preparing for the attack, Odolf raises his weapon with all his strength. The barrier starts to shake from the force of the blows the ogre delivers. The monster realizes the ogre is strong and must be a mage. It thinks the barrier is unbreakable without using magic and strength at the same time. Confident, it believes its technique is invincible and cannot be broken. But suddenly, Odolf manages to crack the barrier with his strength. Surprised, it sees the barrier starting to break little by little. He tells the ogre to keep hitting, and Odolf obeys his master's orders. The monster can't believe the barrier is breaking from the blows. Shouting, it wonders who these creatures are that are there in the lake. With one final blow, Odolf breaks the barrier with all his strength. The monster realizes the mage's power is far greater than it imagined. With the barrier destroyed, the ogre and his master stand before it. Odolf takes a step forward, preparing for battle against the monster. With praise, the monster says the king of 10,000 soldiers is impressive. It can't believe an ogre managed to break its magic barrier alone. Suddenly, it understands this isn't a common ogre, but a shaman. He faces the monster and confirms it's the Zen Karuk he was looking for. Thinking the fight ends there, the monster prepares for the final attack. With its staff, it launches a water spell with all its strength. It believes the ogre is out of mana after breaking its barrier. Shouting, it swears it'll kill them both right there without any mercy. Seeing the attack, Odolf warns the enemy is strong and will be hard to block. He asks if the ogre can use long-range magic to stop the attack. Agreeing, Odolf prepares to use his magic and fulfill his master's order. He prepares to attack right after his servant uses the magic. But before he can react, Odolf already launches a powerful fire spell. The monster realizes they're trying to stop its magic with another spell. Confident, it says it already prepared its defense and the attack won't work. But to its surprise, the fire spell pierces through its defense with ease. Its water barrier breaks from the impact of the powerful fire attack. Seeing its spell fail, it thinks it's impossible and it's going to die there. The monster wonders what kind of magic that was that hit it dead on. With the battle over, he calls his servant Odolf for a conversation. He says that wasn't magic, and that it looked like a log of wood. Changing scenes, a person in a building says they need to recruit a hunter. Sitting in his chair, a man tries to remember that hunter's name. Revealing his identity, the leader of the Pungbak Guild prepares to act. With a serious tone, he confirms the hunter's name is Kim Han-ul. With the cave collapsing, the secret mission finally comes to an end. He asks if that's it, and Odolf confirms yes to his master. The ogre then hands over a stone, saying he found what he was looking for. Thanking him, he says Odolf made everything easier with his help. He tells the ogre not to exaggerate and says to take care of the mana stones. The system sells the stone and begins releasing the mission rewards. He gains a special zone development permit as a reward. Additionally, he receives a ticket, gold, and the named monster he defeated. The system confirms that he can now use Zen Karuk in defense. He decides to head back and check the rewards later, and Odolf follows him. Back at the location, he finds one of the hunters from the other group. Seeing that everyone is safe, she's surprised to see the hunter there. She asks if it was him, and he confirms he defeated the monster. Grateful, she says he saved all of them from that dangerous situation. He asks about the others, and she says they're alive but injured. The guild leader stands up, still recovering from the battle. He then asks to have a word with the hunter who saved him. Approaching, the woman is surprised to see it's the guild leader. With a serious tone, he calls the hunter by name and stands in front of him. Suddenly, he bows and thanks him for saving everyone from death. Confused, he doesn't understand the guild leader's reaction to the situation. Bowed down, he thanks him for saving his guild members. Surprised, he didn't expect a sincere apology from that man. He extends his hand and tells the guild leader to stand up. With a smile, he says the man needs to take care of his members. They shake hands, sealing a new kind of alliance between them. With tears in his eyes, the man thanks him and vows to repay his debt. The system then announces they've overcome the meditation test. Everyone can choose to leave or continue to the next floors of the dungeon. He decides he's staying, surprising the other guild's leader. He says he still has work to do and can't leave now. The guild leader suggests he leave with them and regroup later. He offers help, but the hunter thanks him and declines the man's offer. Suddenly, he summons his monsters, startling the other guild's leader. With his companions, he says he has a reliable team to help him. The ogre stares down the leader, showing all his strength and power to him. Shocked by the appearance, The man realizes the hunter doesn't need help. Frightened, they say goodbye and say they're already leaving the location. The system then warns that everyone has made their choices and the exit has begun. Thanking him once more, the group prepares to leave the dungeon. As the portal opens, they ask the hunter to be careful. Finally alone, he prepares to continue his mission in the dungeon. The system congratulates him for completing that floor's secret mission. With a smile, he prepares to check the mission rewards. Back in the real world, someone in a building receives important news. The guild leader asks if they really need to recruit that hunter. The man says yes because the rookie's potential is simply insane. He refuses to go personally, since the guild doesn't move for rookies. With many problems, the leader says he doesn't have time for a B rank. Suddenly, an emergency alert starts ringing on his phone. He sees the message, which warns about a red pattern dungeon. Receiving the alert, he wonders if there are problems in a nearby dungeon. He then realizes the alert is about the Garden of Meditation. At the base, people rush to evacuate civilians and confirm the situation. The guild leader arrives and asks what the situation is at the location. They confirm the dungeon has changed to a dangerous red pattern. The man worries, asking about the hunters who are still inside. Another agent reports that 6 team members managed to exit the dungeon. He then reveals the hunter entered the deepest part of the dungeon. Surprised, the vice leader asks if a hunter entered the deep part alone. A man appears, and the Pungbek leader recognizes him as Ma Dong-pal. They greet each other, and the man asks about the missing hunter's situation. He says it seems the hunter is the reason the dungeon is changing. The Pungbek leader is surprised by the other hunter's theory. Just then, the Samurai guild leader appears to join the conversation. She says it's the most likely scenario, since no one has reached there before. Until now, no hunter has managed to enter the dungeon's deepest levels. He agrees it's the most logical explanation, but wonders who managed it. Suddenly, someone shouts they have information about the missing hunter. According to the survivors, the hunter really did enter the deepest part of the garden. The man then confirms the identity of the hunter who's inside. He reveals the missing hunter is none other than Kim Hanul. Hearing the name, the Pungbek guild leader is shocked by the news. The Aegis guild leader confirms that the missing hunter is Kim Hanul. With the news, the Samurai guild leader also becomes alert to the situation. The Pungbek leader turns serious, processing the information he just received. He remembers that this is the hunter Su Hyuk had mentioned before. With a smile, she thinks things are taking an interesting turn. If the rookie survives, they'll have unprecedented talent in their hands. Back at the dungeon, he prepares for the next part of his mission. He decides to check the secret mission rewards before continuing forward. With a touch, he opens the system window to see what he earned. His stats increase, and he gains a dimensional bag as a reward. The bag is A grade and can store up to 100 kilos of items. Inside it, he finds various items from the lizard men that were defeated. He's satisfied, as the bag will be very useful for him in the future. Additionally, he receives a spatial development ticket as a reward. Deciding to go to the deepest part, he prepares to continue. The system warns that the gate to the deepest part has been opened. He asks if everyone is ready, and his servants confirm with determination. Looking around, he can't see the gate and wonders where it is. Suddenly, one of the little monsters appears and catches the group's attention. With a noise, the creature turns and starts running toward the lake. He asks Gono if the little monsters want them to follow them there. Watching the creatures running, he wonders why they're heading to the lake. All the little monsters jump into the water, creating a big splash in the lake. His servant Odolf also enters the water, preparing for what's coming. He realizes the gate must be inside the lake, which is strange. With his servants, he prepares to follow the creatures and jump into the water. Everyone jumps together, diving deep into the lake to find the gate. He and his monsters sink into the water, searching for the passage to the next level. Surprised, he realizes he can breathe normally underwater. He sees a portal and understands that without help, he'd be lost forever. The little monsters say goodbye and watch the group entering the portal. Thanking them, he says farewell and prepares for the dungeon's next challenge. Finally, he reached the deepest and most dangerous part of that place. Remembering the conversation, he recalls the warning he received from the hunter. The man said his constellation warned him not to go to that place. That place could be far more dangerous than anyone imagined. He's surprised that Su Hyuk's constellation alerted him about the danger. This time, he knows he might have to risk his life to survive. The system then announces that the challenger is entering the deepest part. A strong light blinds his vision, and he enters a new scenery. With half-closed eyes, he tries to get used to the brightness of the place. Suddenly, his servant Gono appears right in front of him and startles him. Screaming in fright, he backs away and asks what happened to him. He asks if he passed out for a second when going through the dungeon gate. Looking around, he realizes this place is totally different. He finds himself in a plain with a blue sky, very different from what he expected. The place doesn't seem dangerous, and he's confused by the landscape. The system welcomes him to the garden, the deepest part of the dungeon. A new mission is explained, and the system prepares to give the details. He listens carefully while the status window shows the garden's crisis. In this world, the garden is the last paradise, and invaders threaten it. His mission is to protect the place, altering the structure to defend itself. He needs to use the garden's abilities to fight against the invasions. Hearing the description, he realizes the mission format is familiar. The monarch's castle intervenes, offering an aerial view of the garden. With a map, he and his servants prepare for the new mission. He notes that the field's layout is very similar to the castle's. With a smile, he says, if the mission is a defense game, he's confident. He activates his ability to see what forces he needs to work with. A wall of world tree vines appears as a special structure. Another structure is Ari's tree, which releases pollen to charm monsters. The carnivorous plant Zaira devours enemies that approach it. He realizes he has formidable forces to defend against enemies. Curious, he wonders if he can take some plants back with him, but the system warns that the Guardian cannot damage the garden. Suddenly, an alert warns about the presence of an A-rank monster. Looking around, he can't see anything and gets confused by the alert. He then notices something glowing and grabs it with his hand. With his glasses, he manages to see the creature and wonders what it is. The monster is called Beholder Sage and has petrification and espionage abilities. It can observe anyone and restrict the movements of low-rank targets. He finds it strange, as the beholders he knows are enormous monsters. He orders his servant Gano to take care of the monster to send it to the castle, but an unknown constellation demands the beholder sage's freedom. A voice shouts for him to release the creature, leaving him shocked and without reaction. He wonders why a constellation would be in a place like this. He understands that the constellation must be the dungeon's administrator. Suddenly, the voice yells at him again, startling him. He realizes the constellation is anxious to have the little creature. With a smile, he decides he can use the situation to his advantage. The constellation confirms yes and asks him to release the creature right away. He grips the monster tighter, sensing he can take advantage. Warning not to yell, he reminds them he's holding the hostage. He threatens to get rid of the creature if the constellation keeps that up. Suddenly, the constellation proposes a special mission for the hunter. The mission is to ensure the safe return of the Beholder Sage until the end. The reward is total possession of the creature, which shocks him. He thinks it's incredible, since he can get even more rewards from this. With a smile, he says he'll take care of the little one until the mission is over. The system warns him to start the mission as quickly as possible. Before starting, he asks to pose a question to the constellation. He asks why she sought a guardian, since she could defend herself. The constellation explains they defended themselves with the Beholder Sage's help. He understands that's why the constellation cares so much for the creature, but the constellation says the reason is that defense games are boring. Shocked, he can't believe that's the constellation's real motive. He can't understand how defense games could be considered boring. The constellation states it's a fact, and there's nothing fun about it. Laughing, he says they don't understand the true charm of this type of game. He offers to teach the tricks of the game in exchange for rewards, but the constellation says she doesn't need to and isn't interested in the offer. He then squeezes the little monster, threatening to hurt it if they don't cooperate. Shouting, he calls his servant Gano and prepares to use force. Frightened, the little creature starts trembling with fear in the hunter's hands. The constellation gives in and agrees to the proposal, accepting the deal. The carnivorous plants devour all the monsters that invaded the garden. With a smile, he asks if the constellation watched everything carefully. He explains that if done his way, defense will be easier. With everything ready, he and his servants prepare for the next wave. The 10th wave of monsters approaches, and the system displays the information. He asks how the constellation would deal with all those monsters. Irritated, he realizes the constellation isn't taking the situation seriously. He asks if the problem is that the constellation is bad at defense games. Angrily, they claim they can handle that without problems. With a smile, he sees the constellation is finally motivated to fight. He then decides it's time to start his real strategy. He asks if the constellation will place all the plants at the entrance. With a plan in mind, he decides to provoke the constellation a little. He says the constellation's tactic is absolutely useless and hopeless. He explains the plant's movements are slow and need support. He says the Ari tree will immobilize enemies with its charm, but the queen bee is immune, and the golems aren't affected by the wall. He then asks what they should use to stop these two monsters. The constellation gets curious, wanting to know the answer to the problem. Showing a seed, he says that's the solution they need. He explains the plant's bullets have very strong sticky goo. The constellation questions, saying the goo isn't that strong. He says hundreds of them can stop even the strongest monster. With a command, the plants begin shooting at the invading monsters. The queen bee is caught and immobilized by the garden's carnivorous plants. He shows that even something insignificant can be useful if used the right way. He says this is the true thrill of defense and strategy games. With the battle won, the constellation watches everything with great interest. The 25th wave of monsters approaches with new enemies. This time, one large monster and 11 smaller ones of different types appear. He asks the constellation how she would handle the current situation. After thinking, The Mother Goddess's gardener offers her opinion. Analyzing the strategy, he asks if the plan is to gather the monsters in the center. At that, a message confirms the idea is exactly that. Agreeing with the suggestion, he says he'll prepare the passage. In response, the Mother Goddess's gardener approves with a thumbs up. Right after, several success messages start appearing on the screen. All of them congratulate on the defense against the 25th wave. He then asks what the constellation will do next in this challenge. Fast forwarding in time, the defense against Wave 62 is a success. Because of this, a major change happens in the gardener's mentality. The mission is then readjusted to a new and different format. Now they volunteer to become the guardians of that place. With this, the objective changes from simply defending to training. With a smile, he says he'll teach all his defense knowledge. After half a day, he devoted himself completely to the training mission. Seeing the chicken monster, he says it's best to roast it whole. Correcting the strategy, he warns that's not how you use the amulet that way. Thoughtful, he ends up admitting the result wasn't so bad. As the notification for Wave 99 arrives, he breathes a little relieved. Sitting with his allies, he praises the constellation for the good performance. In response, the Mother Goddess's gardener smiles with great satisfaction. Impressed, the big guy comments their skills have improved a lot. Saying the constellation could finish alone, he suddenly stops talking. At that, a huge tremor makes the entire ground start cracking. Startled by the noise, he turns to see what happened. His other companion also goes on alert with a surprised look. Suddenly, a gigantic shadow begins covering the entire region. From the ground then emerges a huge monster with the appearance of an elephant. A notification informs that the data for the 100th wave is arriving. The notification reveals the monster is called Behemoth. With the monster roaring, the Mother Goddess's gardener tries to change the layout. Saying she's grown enough, he says the constellation adapted quickly. Observing the enemy, he says the monster is too strong for the garden's power. He then states he'll personally show how to defeat that monster. Leaping toward the enemy, he advances together with his two companions. Facing the monster, he warns this is the final lesson. Vines burst from the ground, binding the giant creature with all available force. Gripping the monster's paw, the plants completely immobilize it in place. Seeing the creature trapped, he comments that its feet have been caught by the vines. He then says this is their chance, since its movements have stopped. Suddenly, the creature's eye begins to glow with a very intense light. The creature lets out a roar, showing all its fury against them. Small beings then begin to emerge from the monster's body, greatly surprising the young man. He wonders what that is. As the creatures are finally revealed, the monsters then fly toward him, and he says they can't dodge. Realizing the great danger, he braces himself for the incoming collision. Getting in front, his ally takes the hit and screams his lord's name. With a powerful stomp on the ground, he manages to stay firm after the attack. Saying that was close, he's asked if he's all right by his king. He answers that he's fine, and that fortunately they don't seem to be that threatening. Right after he gets ready, entering his position for the coming combat, but a massive swarm of creatures emerges, rapidly advancing toward them. Seeing the imminent danger, he becomes desperate with the number of monsters coming. He then realizes that actually, they're much more threatening than they seemed. Advancing together, the creatures form a wave of attack that flies against the group. His ally steps forward and yells for his lord to be very careful. With a powerful strike, he hits several of the monsters at once. Another companion also advances, shouting his friend's name while attacking. He then prepares himself, gathering strength in his fist for the next blow. Fighting together, the two exchange blows with the creatures, opening a path. Analyzing the situation, he concludes that things are really very bad for them. He says the fleas aren't strong, but there are too many for just 3 people. Meanwhile, his companion wonders if there's any way out of that situation. Suddenly, a notification appears warning about a deposit of 4,000 gold. He then remembers that was the money from the deal that had been made. Celebrating his luck, he says he'll summon that guy to help in the battle. A system screen appears, activating the transaction from the Lord to him. Launching an energy sphere, he promptly begins the summoning process. He then says he'll use the magic of the monster named Zen Karuk. With the summon, he warns he'll wipe out all the fleas at once. The creature appears on site, asking confused about where it really is now. He yells for the priest to hurry up, ordering him to use that thing he knows. Irritated, he orders him to use the water strike from before, you punk. Having a flash of memory, the creature finally remembers what he was talking about. Gathering energy in his hands, the priest prepares to use his special ability. The ability Tears of the Ancient God is activated, unleashing a powerful attack. Right after, a massive wave advances toward all the enemies. Hitting the swarm head-on, the blow completely destroys the small flying creatures. Seeing the result, He celebrates, saying the attack worked perfectly. He realizes it's weaker than the version they faced at the ancient lake, but it's still strong enough to wipe out all the fleas for good. Giving the order, he tells Zen Karuk to finish them all at once. Using its ability, the creature launches another of its powerful water strikes. With the attack finished, the area is completely clean of all the monsters. Praising the good work, he congratulates Zen Karuk for his great help in the battle. He then turns around, saying that now only the giant monster remains to be defeated. The creature then roars, showing all its fury against the entire group. Calling for Odolf, he prepares to put his new plan into action. He then orders him to throw the goblin at the giant monster's head. Not understanding anything, the small goblin looks at his companion with great fear. Shouting, he says there's no time to explain and to just trust him. Apologizing, his friend prepares to hurl the small teammate. With all his strength, he throws the goblin toward the giant monster. Traveling through the air, he flies straight toward the enraged creature's head. He yells to the goblin, ordering him to accelerate as fast as possible. Activating his ability, the crow's wing beat increases his flight speed. He says that Gano's ability doesn't pierce the monster's skin, so to increase the power, they use the acceleration as extra momentum. Asking Zen Karuk, he orders him to fire a water strike at Gano. With the request made, the barrier of the ancient god's tears is activated. The water envelops the goblin, creating a protective shield around him. Going all out, he heads toward the monster for his attack. Seeing the strike coming, the giant creature roars very loudly in response. Dead on, the blow hits the monster's head with great impact. Piercing through the enemy, he manages to penetrate and exit the other side of the monster. Then a screen appears, congratulating them for passing the garden test. Landing on the ground, he finishes his movement with great class and calm. Celebrating the good work, he says the goblin did very well in the attack. A giant sword descends from the sky, and he wonders what it is. Right after, a notification warns that an unknown rank item is the reward. Holding the weapon, he then asks if that sword is the great reward. A screen appears, showing that the sword can use vestige copy. Questioning what that means, he decides to check his weapon's ability. Then a warning appears, saying the monster cannot be summoned with the copy. He understands that the rank changes depending on the monster orb that's inserted. The goddess's gardener asks what additional reward he would like to receive. Remembering the promise, he recalls that he would receive tricks for future missions. Finally understanding, he realizes what that extra reward situation was about. Thinking about the prize, he says if it's from a constellation, it has to be that. Pointing the sword at the creature, he begins to invoke the constellation's power. He then asks the entity to grant all its authority to him. Gripping the sword firmly, he begins to request the authority of that powerful constellation. Asking for the power to be granted, the image of an ancient being appears before him. It's explained that authority is a special power, coming from a contract with constellations. He knows that obtaining this power would be a huge help for his journey, but a message warns that the goddess's gardener cannot grant that request. Confused, he asks why, and the answer says it's not for lack of willingness. The message then explains that he cannot form a contract with them now. It's revealed that he's already scheduled to have a contract with another constellation. Saying it can't be, he asks if there's some mistake in that information. At that, the gardener offers him 2 reward options to choose from. Not understanding, he then wonders what a sponsorship contract between them would be. They explain that the sponsorship contract allows him to use a weaker version of the authority. He then asks if he can use the authority without any conditions imposed on him. Thinking for a bit, he says it's not bad since other rewards don't compare. He reaches the conclusion that the gardener's identity is humanity's first emperor. Revealing his identity, the first emperor Sargon stares at him with glowing eyes. He reflects that historically, the only one to receive the goddess's love was Sargon. Analyzing the situation, he thinks about what to do while the gardener awaits his choice. Making his final decision, he prepares to announce what he really wants. He then says he'll choose the sponsorship contract, which is an excellent choice. Forming the contract, the constellation's power is transferred directly into his body. With the new authority, he acquires abilities and resistance against different types of poison. Besides that, he also gains resistance to fear, so he won't lose his mind in terror. With all his stats increasing by 10, he thinks his lucky break has arrived. Smiling, he realizes he made the right choice by taking the constellation's authority. With a final message, the sponsorship contract is successfully concluded. Then the gardener transfers ownership of the wise observer to him as a reward. Remembering the promise, he smiles, seeing that the constellation kept its word. Saying he'll take good care of it, he accepts ownership of that small observer creature. With everything resolved, a message warns that the garden was perfectly completed by them. A notification appears, showing the 4 conditions completed to unlock his new ability. At that, the final condition is revealed: create an S-rank item or higher. Right after, a monster material begins to glow intensely with a strong light. All the item's energy is released, creating a massive wave of power in the area. Switching to the city, a gate reaction is detected, indicating a possible break. Shouting loudly, one of the leaders orders the units to prepare for monsters to emerge. Another hunter says he'll take the vanguard, asking the rest of the team to provide support. Meanwhile, an older man orders Su-hyuk and Su-ah to prepare for battle. With a serious look, he says they'll be fine against the monsters that will come. But to everyone's surprise, a person and not a monster exits the portal. Seeing the survivor, they shout that Hunter Kim Han-ul returned alive from the portal. A hunter then asks if this means he cleared the Garden of Meditation. Meanwhile, the Garden of Meditation gate begins to disappear before them. In disbelief, one of the men says he can't believe he cleared everything alone. He expected people from the association, since he cleared the dungeon, but there was no one. She then questions why the 3 guild masters are present there. Right after, one of the guild leaders stares at the location with great attention. Beside him, the last of the 3 masters also observes all the movement on the street. Coming closer, a man calls him by the name of Hunter Kim Han-ul. Introducing himself as Kim Jung-soo, he thanks him for the hard work of clearing the dungeon. He thanks him back, but asks why the guild leaders are there. Explaining the situation, he says the Garden of Meditation changed its pattern. At that, he understands that everyone thought a dungeon break was going to happen. Confirming the suspicion, the agent says that's why they requested everyone's mobilization. But he didn't expect all the masters of the main guilds to come to the location. Finding it all strange, he thinks that just the guild members would have been enough. Talking, one of them mentions the Bloodstone, asking if it's for creating S-rank items. Confirming, the master says that's right, and having one means something. She then explains that it proves he hunted the zone's boss monster. With a smile on his face, the other guild master watches the situation unfold. Shocked, a hunter says it's crazy, doubting he's a B-rank hunter. Coming closer, he introduces himself as Ma Dong-pal from the Aegis Guild, calling out to the hunter. Being direct, he asks if the guy would be interested in joining his guild. Saying he's sorry, he responds that he still has no intention of joining. Getting surprised, the guildmaster can't believe what he just heard. He gets irritated, since his recruitment offer was rejected instantly and without thought. Turning around, he goes to talk to Hunter Yoon Su-hyuk, who was nearby. Thanking him, he says the information he received helped him clear everything. He then says these things happen since he refused to help. Agreeing with Su-hyuk, the other master says they decide who to share with. Grumbling, he understands that the Pungbak Guild had already beaten him in the dispute. He says discovering rookies is the guild's criteria, and he wouldn't choose Aegis. Irritated, the master shouts, asking if he has any idea how incredible the guild is. While the two argue, he wonders if they really came just to see him. Realizing he can use the situation, he's approached by the woman who was watching him. Handing over a business card, she asks him to simply call her later. She then turns and warns that she can give him exactly what he wants most. With a smile on her face, she walks away, leaving him with his thoughts. He then watches her leave, thinking about the proposal that was made to him. The next day, he comments that he only heard rumors, this being his first time there. Looking at his phone, he approaches Cafe Artorium, a place for elite hunters. During the call, she said he'd get what he wants at the address she sent. Arriving at the location, he didn't imagine the meeting point would be exactly there. He realizes the rumors were right, seeing a famous huntress at the place. Looking around, he notices all the customers are very famous hunters. Sitting down, he thinks his time has finally come, visiting a place like that. Celebrating his own achievement, he congratulates himself for managing to get to that place. Coming from behind, a guy asks who he's meeting at the cafe. Asking directly, he confirms if that's the guy who cleared the Garden of Meditation. He then introduces himself as Hong Han Sol from the well-known Bonebreaker Guild. Questioning about the guild, he shows some recognition upon hearing that familiar name. Known as a mercenary guild, the Bonebreaker does everything for the right price. Being infamous for their cruelty, they form a malicious guild that everyone always avoids. He then concludes nothing good will come, deciding to just ignore the man's presence. Insisting on the conversation, he asks if the rumors going around are true. Pretending not to know anything, he's immediately scolded not to play dumb. Revealing the rumor, he says everyone's talking about his affiliation with the Pungbak Guild. He then questions if that isn't a strategy, asking how much he got paid for it. Losing patience with the conversation, he ends up throwing his coffee in the man's direction. With a victorious smile, he realizes the guy finally took his bait. Surprisingly, he says the guy can certainly think that way about him. Asking if the rumors are true, he receives a quite unexpected answer from him. With a satisfied smile, the guy shows he likes how everything is going. Warning that everyone's looking, he says he doesn't care if it feeds rumors. Then he simply states that rumors are just rumors, leaving the other without reaction. Very irritated, he says the rookie doesn't understand the situation being a hunter. At that exact moment, a woman starts walking toward the table of the two. Getting close to them, she asks if by chance she's very late for the meeting. Noticing the strange atmosphere, He wonders if some fight happened there. Surprised, he recognizes the woman, questioning what the master of the Samurai Guild is doing there. She then asks if they've met before, and he confirms the meeting. Saying she doesn't remember unimportant people, she leaves the guy very irritated. Trying to introduce himself again, he's completely ignored by her as she passes. Apologizing, she says this place is great, but people like that always show up. Repeating the offense, he leaves the location, shocked by what he just heard. She then says it's all right, since he wasn't worth the attention. With much anger, he looks back completely furious with that whole humiliating situation. She then looks at him, questioning what he was still doing standing there. Asking what he's doing, she questions if he has any more business at that location. At that, he turns around, holding his face with his hand in a gesture of pure rage. He watches the guy leaving, thinking how he acted tough before this. Saying the nuisance is gone, she asks if they can discuss the proposal made. He then asks why she's offering a favor without any apparent condition. With a smile on her face, she simply responds that all of this is for the future. She says she's adding a favor to the scale, to ensure he chooses her. With a serious look, he hears that the weight will be greater than Pungbek's. The Samurai Guild is one of the top 3, for 2 very specific and clear reasons. One of them is the combat prowess and leadership of the guildmaster, Samurai. Another reason is the superiority of the items they possess in their weapons arsenal. The reason for this is a craftsman of incredible skill, who's affiliated with the guild. He then gets surprised, thinking the craftsman was in the middle of Seoul. Completing the thought, he says the craftsman would be right there in Muladong. Walking, he's surprised to see her casually in the neighborhood, and she questions him. She then explains that, to other people, she looks totally different now. Confirming the suspicion, she says she's using one of her special illusions. He understands that with the illusion, it would be impossible to discover the craftsman's location. Far from there, the hunter who was ignored gives a laugh with a sinister look. With much anger, he says the rookie dared to ignore him there in front of everyone. Following the 2 through the streets, he swears he'll make him regret everything. Arriving at the location, they find a workshop with its doors completely shut. With a quick gesture, she lifts the establishment's door so they can enter. She announces they've arrived, but a voice from inside says she's late. The man then questions if she knows how long he's been waiting for them. She apologizes for being late, explaining that she brought a special guest with her. He says she took so long that he was about to close the workshop. Without wasting time, the young man asks where the item he mentioned is. Showing the stone, he hands the item to the craftsman to take a good look at it. Introducing himself, he says the craftsman can call him Sancheon, like the workshop. With a smile, he says he's excited to work with Mr. Sancheon. Analyzing the item, a strong light emerges from the stone, illuminating the entire area around. He then says the stone is incredible, being of the highest quality grade. She asks if it's really the highest grade, and he confirms without a doubt. Impressed, he states it's the first time he's seen such a perfect specimen. Thanking his lord, he accepts the commission and asks him to sign the contract. Not understanding, he asks if he really needs to sign the contract that was offered. Saying it's necessary, the craftsman hands him the mana seal contract. With the power to bind the contractors, it imposes a penalty if not fulfilled. It's explained that the type of penalty depends on the grade of the contract used. Reading the document, he notices by the texture that it's a very high-grade contract. Suddenly, he warns the gentleman that there's a very strange clause written there. Saying he'll burn to death, the craftsman tells him not to worry about it. Even finding it terrifying, he says he'd trust him because of the guildmaster's introduction. He then states that the contract represents all his determination in this important work. Holding the stone, he says a craftsman risks his life to work on this caliber. Already outside, the guildmaster offers him a ride. Refusing the offer, he says it's okay because he has things to take care of now. She understands the situation, saying she'll see him next time before saying goodbye. Calling out to the master, he says he has a question before she leaves. With a serious look, he asks what the people of that neighborhood mean to her. Remembering the way back, he recalls what happened on the street earlier. Meeting people from the neighborhood, they exchanged smiles and greetings in a very friendly way. Thinking they're precious to her, he questions himself about the real situation. Turning to him, she calls him Mr. Hannell with great seriousness. She then asks what the real intention is behind that unexpected question of his. Back at the workshop, the craftsman admires the jewel, saying it's truly incredible. He says it's the first time he's seen such a perfect stone, preparing himself for work. Then, a loud noise at the door ends up scaring the craftsman in his workshop quite a bit. With violence, an unknown hand grabs his clothes from behind with great force. Asking who's there, he sees 3 figures slowly entering the completely dark place. Getting closer, the young man greets the old craftsman with a very mocking smile. He says they're guild members and they heard about the byproducts left behind. Saying there was a misunderstanding, he warns they came to get the stone back. The craftsman thinks those lies wouldn't fool even a 7-year-old child. Putting the stone in his pocket, he prepares for what's about to come. Surrounding the craftsman, He orders the old man to hand over the bloodstone to them. Saying he's never heard of it, he states the place is an ordinary workshop. He then questions how the old man would know how precious a bloodstone is. Not believing the lie, the young man says the craftsman knows very well what it is. Wondering how much he knows, the craftsman thinks that Punk is dangerous. Revealing there's no point in lying, he says he saw the hunter arriving with the woman. The craftsman understands they were following the hunter, but didn't recognize the master. He then warns that if they want the stone, they need to bring hunter Kim Han-ol. Finding it insulting, the young man asks if they seem to be messing with him. With a gesture, he sends the guys after the craftsman who was standing there, telling them to show who they are. He warns them just not to kill the old man. Suddenly, he turns around, sensing a strange presence approaching their location. Then his two companions fall to the ground without him noticing what happened. A voice then asks what they're doing, and the young man turns around startled. Trembling with fear, his henchman tries to warn about the approaching danger. Trembling with fear, one of the henchmen tries to warn about what's happening there. Shouting, the group's leader asks what the hell they're doing standing still without reacting. Warning his boss, the man says he simply can't move at all. Not believing it, he questions what kind of nonsense was that he was talking about now. With a blow, he hits his paralyzed henchman's face squarely. But upon receiving the blow, the man doesn't even move, surprising his boss quite a bit. Noticing the stiffness, he wonders what's wrong with his henchman's body. Observing, the young man thinks petrification doesn't work on rank A hunters. Meanwhile, the small purple creature floats, keeping its ability active on everyone. Suddenly, the group's leader notices the presence of a new enemy nearby. With his servant floating, he congratulates the sage for the good work he did. He then appears at the workshop, much to the surprise of all the intruders. Surprised, the leader asks how Kim Han-ol managed to get there unnoticed. He replies that he already knew they would come, as he had noticed he was being followed. Remembering earlier, he was walking down the street while being secretly watched from afar. His sage then warns him that the opponent is Hong Han-sol from the Bonebreaker. Confused, he wonders if the sage might be mistaken about that information. At that moment, his little companion's espionage ability is finally activated by him. With it, the sage can observe others without ever being detected by enemies. The search then confirms that Hong Han-sol was using a stealth ability. Thanking the sage, he realizes the guy was there the whole time, hidden. He asks to continue the surveillance, warning to report anything really suspicious. He never imagined the guy would go after the bloodstone that way. Saying he'll give them a chance, he faces the leader of the invading group. He continues talking, saying that since nothing has happened yet, there's another way out. Telling him to apologize, the guy says not to make him laugh with that proposal. Advancing, he asks if a guy like that can really do anything against him. He then boasts about his contracted constellation, the barefoot information thief. Wondering how he was noticed, he decides to attack and take the bloodstone by force. With a smile, the guy says if he doesn't want to, there's nothing he can do. Irritated, he says the bastard really dares to look down on him like that. Drawing his daggers, he says he doesn't know where the confidence comes from, but he'll make him regret it. Using an item, he throws a smoke bomb, creating a huge screen in the area. With a massive explosion, the entire workshop is engulfed in dense white smoke. Not understanding, he wonders what the guy is doing with that smoke screen. Then, a shadow begins to form, slowly revealing itself to the surprised hunter. Not understanding, he wonders what that creature is that appeared out of nowhere in front of him. With his servant at his side, the guy calls the goblin by the name Kiruk for battle. Laughing out loud, he asks if that's his ability, a trash monster. He says he feels like an idiot for being tense, even if only for a second. With a smile, he says the guy acted tough, but it was all a bluff. Telling him to say whatever he wants, he says he'll shut his mouth. The hunter wonders what that is, and the guy tells him to try and take it. Thinking it's another bluff, he says the sword looks worth a lot of money. Advancing quickly, he decides he's going to take all the guy's precious items. With a leap, he advances toward the hunter, ready to strike a blow. He then smiles, thinking about all the items he'll get with that victory. He thinks about the highest grade bloodstone, an extremely valuable item. Besides that, he'll also be able to take that mysterious treasure sword that appeared. Thanking him for the meal, he goes in with his dagger for the final blow. Suddenly, an alert appears in his vision, surprising the hunter mid-attack. The message tells him to stop fighting and flee from the area as fast as possible. At that moment, the goblin advances with a powerful strike toward the surprised hunter. He then creates an energy blade, preparing for the counterattack that's coming. With a scream of pain, he's thrown far back by the goblin's strike that hit him. Firing an attack, the small being slams the enemy against the wall with force. Congratulating his servant, he says the goblin did a good job with the attack. Getting up, he wonders what the hell that is, feeling the power of the blow. Angrily, he says that damn goblin caught him off guard with its strength. Saying he was going to ignore it, He rushes at the monster with all his speed. He then exchanges blows with the goblin, which defends against all attacks easily. Surprised, he can't believe the speed the little monster is showing. The goblin then lands a direct hit, throwing the hunter back hard. Unable to believe it, he doesn't understand how a goblin can be so fast and strong. At that moment, a new warning notification appears for him in the middle of battle. With a powerful blow, the goblin hits the hunter, breaking his defense completely. Flying backward, the goblin lands another hit, causing massive damage to the hunter. Screaming in pain, he's thrown to the ground with the force of the attack he received. A message appears, showing that the information thief shakes his head. Ignoring the warning, he's disarmed by the goblin, which throws his dagger far away. With a final blow, the goblin ends the fight, defeating the hunter completely. Fallen on the ground, the hunter screams in pain with his face all bloodied. Striking the other two henchmen, the goblin defeats them with a single powerful blow. With a sequence of attacks, he shows all his strength and power in battle. Surprised, the two henchmen watch the fight unfold with great fear and shock. The craftsman also watches, shocked by the strength the small being was demonstrating. With a smile, the guy tells the goblin that's enough for now. The monster then stops its attack, very close to the fallen hunter's face. Drops of blood fall to the ground, showing the severity of the hunter's injuries. Warning that one more blow would kill him, he gives an order for his servant to stop. At that moment, a notification warns that the constellation ended its contract with the defeated hunter. Saying the work was good, he sends the goblin back to its place. Fallen on the ground, the hunter kneels, begging for his life with great fear. Stuttering, he asks for his life to be spared after all that mess. Saying he was wrong, he apologizes and begs to be allowed to live. He then hears the proposal that he'll do anything if his life is spared. Saying he doesn't want to kill anyone, he seems to agree with the proposal made. With a smile, the hunter thinks he managed to get out of that dangerous situation. He just needed to survive for now, and later he could plan his next move. But suddenly, a dark energy emerges, leaving the hunter quite scared and confused. He then says he's not sure if that person will agree to the deal. At that moment, a female figure appears, walking slowly toward everyone present. Surprised, the hunter recognizes the woman, calling out Sanaray's name with fear. Enveloped by an energy, she stares at the hunter with a look of pure fury. She then says she let her guard down, and that's why she didn't notice the ambush. Regretting it, she thinks that one wrong move, and he could have been in grave danger. He apologizes, but the craftsman says it's all right, since nothing happened. Even so, he feels bad, thinking that all of this happened because of him. She then tells him not to say that, because the ones who were wrong were the invaders. With a smile, she says that's why he doesn't need to apologize for anything. Agreeing, he asks what she's going to do with those guys who were defeated. She starts to say she'll contact the association, but the craftsman interrupts her. Angrily, she shouts that it's not enough, and that she'll deal with them personally. He then asks if she plans to kill them, and she confirms without hesitating for a second. Asking her not to do that, he says he doesn't want to see anyone get hurt. She questions him, saying that if it weren't for him, the craftsman could have died. Pleading, he asks her not to take a life because of him, no matter what. The craftsman then asks if he's really going to do this for him, even after everything. Sighing, she says he's too good, and that she'll let the invaders live. She says she can't let it slide completely, and that they won't be bothering them again. Threatening, she says that if he stops her, she won't visit him for a while. While the two argue, he wonders if they really get along or not. Watching the fight, he thinks it's hard to tell if they get along. Surprised, he didn't know the guildmaster had a side like that. The craftsman then thanks him for the help, and says the stone will be ready tomorrow. Worried, he suggests the craftsman rest a bit after all the shock, but he responds that it's better to focus on work, and he'll be waiting for him tomorrow night. Understanding the decision, he says goodbye and leaves with the guildmaster. Already in the car, she calls out to Hanel, who responds promptly to her call. She then thanks him very much for everything, but he says it was nothing much. Telling him not to be modest, she states she would have lost someone precious today. With a smile, she says she'll definitely repay the favor he did. Opening the car door, he prepares to finally get into her vehicle. Smiling, he says he'll definitely contact her if he needs any help. With a smile, she says that's great, and she'll be waiting for him. The car then departs, leaving the young man alone on the dark and empty city street. Suddenly, a notification appears in front of him, catching him completely by surprise. The message warns him to prepare, as the next wave begins in 2 hours. Arriving home, he prepares for the new wave of attacks that will come. Grabbing some drinks, he thinks he barely got home and already needs to prepare to fight. He wonders if this is the second wave, and what will come out of it this time. Sitting down, he wonders if he should already start preparing for the new threat. A notification appears, launching the system to stop the monster with a monster. He then decides to check the monsters he can deploy in the monarch's castle now. Seeing the list, he realizes his fighting power has increased quite a bit since the last time. At that, he's surprised to see that a special privilege has been granted to him. Not understanding, He wonders what that special privilege that appeared would be. The message then warns that the item seller will appear only in this current wave. With the seller, he'll be able to buy items that can be used during battle. Analyzing the screens, he sees that the item seller has entered his castle. In the castle, the seller asks for a moment while he prepares all his available merchandise. Showing his products, the list of items available for purchase is finally revealed. Seeing the variety, he decides to look for something useful for the battle. Suddenly, one of the items ends up catching his attention very much in an unexpected way. The item is a set of energy bars that restore health and mana. He realizes that with this, his monsters would have practically multiple lives in battle. Even with other good items, he decides he definitely needs to buy that set. Not knowing what to buy, he thinks it would be easier if he knew about the wave. At that, a message asks if he would like to check the wave information now. Surprised, he wonders why the information appeared, since it wasn't like this before. A screen then appears, showing that the wave information will be displayed for him. With a smile, he understands why the information was revealed in advance. The wave includes a 7-star monster and more than 1,000 2-star monsters. Thinking about the quantity, he's shocked by the gigantic number of monsters that will come. He thinks it's impossible to stop the wave and wonders what he should do. At that moment, his little sage flies quickly toward one of the screens. The little being then starts pointing to his inventory very insistently. Watching the movement, the sage points frantically at a specific item stored there. With a smile, he says that when you're stuck, this is the only way. Opening the inventory, he grabs his premium gacha ticket that was stored. Using the item, he initiates the premium gacha, hoping for a good result now. Suddenly, the screen shines intensely, surprising the young man with the strong light. With a strong glow, the computer light illuminates the entire room he's in. The scene then changes, showing a blood moon in the sky with a red light. On the ground, a piece of armor emerges, floating with very powerful energy. The piece then flies and attaches to the leg of a skeletal creature that appears. Under the blood moon, a horde of skeletons prepares for the great battle. A message then warns that wave number 702 will begin at this moment. With the order to advance, the skeleton leader commands his entire army to attack. A notification warns that a special hero resisted the blessing of light and salt. With this, the increased damage against undead will now be fixed at 500%. He understands that the blessing doesn't work on such a strong 7-star monster. Showing his strategy, he divided the barracks into 4 different battle sections. To prevent the invasion, he split the entrance into 4, restricting the number of enemies. With the monsters arriving at the first quarter, the first part of the battle begins. Weakened by the salt room, the enemies lose their numerical advantage against him. Shouting, his servant tells the creatures to come, for he is ready for the fight. Saying they will perish, his ogre advances with a powerful strike on the horde of skeletons. With an area attack, he says the enemies will be annihilated by his monsters. Screaming that they shall not pass, the ogre destroys several of the skeletons with his attack. With the casualties, the remaining monsters screen is updated, showing the new number. In the second quarter, a new horde of monsters prepares to invade the castle. With his eyes glowing, the priest prepares to use his support ability. A notification then warns that the tears of the ancient god were activated by him. With one strike, 40 soldiers and 30 skeleton archers are defeated at once. With more casualties, the number of remaining monsters on the screen is updated again. In the third quarter, a new horde of skeletons advances to battle against him. With his eyes glowing, the goblin prepares to use one of his abilities. Flying upward, he positions himself to attack the horde approaching rapidly. A message then warns that the raven's wing beat was activated by him. With an area attack, he destroys 50 soldiers and 20 skeleton archers. With that, 14 more skeleton knights are defeated by the goblin's powerful attack. With more casualties, the number of remaining monsters is updated once more on the screen. In the fourth quarter, a new horde of monsters prepares for the final battle. A message then warns that the lizardmen received a swarm bonus on attack. Advancing in formation, the skeletons go at the lizardmen with everything they have. With their shields, the lizardmen defend against the attacks, holding the front line. A notification appears, showing the casualties of the skeleton soldiers, knights, and archers in the battle. With the updated numbers, the screen shows that 881 monsters remain. He says everything is going well, as the monsters are weakened by the room. With a serious look, he realizes the real problem is just beginning now. At this moment, a red energy begins to manifest on the dark battlefield. With the emergence of the energy, the dead monsters begin to rise again from the ground. Floating in the air, the undead leader prepares one of his special abilities. The energy then envelops the entire castle, bringing a sense of danger to everyone. Inside the castle, all the dead monsters begin to rise again for battle. The ogre then turns around, surprised to see the skeletons rising once more. The priest also gets startled, screaming at the resurrection of the monsters that were killed. Desperate, the goblin screams his friend's name, seeing the horde rise. Suddenly, An audible warning begins to sound, alerting about the new threat on the screen. Several danger notifications appear, showing the gravity of the current situation for him. The message then warns that Aramatus is using undead resurrection now. He then says that's why the undead are so irritating to face. With the command to rise, the skeletons return to life for battle. With the resurrection, the skeletons rebuild themselves, returning to battle once more. At this moment, all the undead monsters return to the battlefield with full force. Surprised, the ogre can't believe what he's seeing with that powerful magic. No matter how many times they're killed, they always come back with the resurrection magic. The monster screen then shows that all 1,200 monsters are alive. They simply return to life, as if nothing had happened to them before. The priest despairs, as his monsters have no more life to fight against everyone. But suddenly, an energy bar appears, flying toward one of the monsters. Eating the bar, the goblin recovers his energy for the battle to come. The priest also eats one, recovering his life and mana to continue fighting. Saying he's already prepared a countermeasure, the ogre also eats the energy bar. At this moment, 23 energy bars are used to heal the monsters. With his life restored, the ogre shouts that his body is overflowing with power now. He then thinks that since he can buy more bars, he can also heal himself always. With a smile, he says it will be his mana against his items, and they'll see who wins. With his eyes glowing, the Skeleton King observes the battle to come. His monsters then advance, ready for the new round of combat against the skeletons. With everyone healed, the monsters prepare to fight with full force once more. With a smile, he says that the second round of battle can finally begin.